The sound of bombs runs through the air in the streets of Lebanon. Hateful soldiers everywhere. The troops of Babylon. Bloodstains on the footpath. Madness on the ground. Senseless forms of bloodbath as you hear the bugles sound. It's called Lebanon. Come on, let's see you! Thrash it! She's on Babylon, it's told everywhere. Troops on Babylon, lost in on the river. Madness on the ground, senseless form of bloodbath. You hear the good sound. Come on! Machine on fire, fighting for their life, killing with their heart's desire. No one can survive. The battle, living on, the battle, living on, destruction. Creatures filled with Muslim gods, blindfolded to fire, left behind the battle's God, jury comes for hire. Battle, living on, the battle, living on, destruction. Alright, let's see it, Thrash! You remember how to do that? Fighting for the right, taking all the down to my special. Couldn't let your head just a follower. The children of the Christmas, it was the protocol. Area destruction and suffering below. Shooting at the missiles to get the final below.
Welcome. And once again, I forget to put the mic in front of my face because I'm enjoying the video so much, or the music. I'm like sitting over friggin' there as usual. I don't think I'll ever become professional at this. I don't think I ever want to, but I think I'm enjoying this. Welcome, guys, and hopefully everything is sounding all right out there. Give me a thumbs up or whatever. Let me know it's all good. Um, this one's a crazy one as usual. Every one of these videos are crazy, so I should ignore saying crazy. But thank you for joining me. Welcome, and wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day. Uh, you're not having problems and issues in your life, and maybe if you are, talk about it to somebody close by who will listen, right? And also maybe in the next few hours, whatever, this time that you'll forget about that, and you will think about, you know, just distract yourself from the world, from your own world, and think about what's going on around the world. And I think a lot of times I found that if I stop concentrating on myself, it takes off the pressure off my back, off my shoulders, and I get a bit more, you know, um, it's like one of those things where you go to think about like 100 miles in somebody else's shoes kind of thing. Take a step in somebody else's shoes and you'll see that like your life isn't so bad. And I found that like if I stop thinking about myself for a bit, I can actually, be, you know, feel a bit better about myself because I'm thinking about, man, it's so must be, everybody else is having such a hard life. Why the hell am I complaining? But then again, there are things you got to take care of in your life as well to make sure it's not so, stressful or whatever, right? So without further ado, I want to just talk about the song, um, you know, Lebanon by Mortal Sin, and that's from like 1980s, right? I remember hearing that like around about 1990s, maybe. I think it was on Mahemic Destruction, on the album. So I I actually bought the album, the actual vinyl, when it came out because I loved the artwork on it. Plus, I had heard this song and I was like, man, this is pretty cool. You know, these guys are really, really good. And so these guys are around, and they have been around. They went away and they came back again in the past few years. And you know, one of the drummer basically became a I think it was Steve who used to drum with them. He actually became a stand-up comedian. You know, he used to like do tours. Well, he lives over in Europe, I think UK now, but like he used to like, you know, do a whole bunch of you know, stand-up and stuff. That's how I realized these guys were still around, or that I'd forgotten about them, because I lost a lot of music, like boxes and boxes of music, and so many bands I'm just realizing now that I still listen to that I haven't even thought about. So this is this, you know, something a bit, you know, bit more different to what we do, right? Or what I do here. So, bad request, what? So this is the lyrics to Lebanon, right? The song we just played. Pretty, I mean, like, do check out Mortal Sin. Like, they're like you know, I reckon they're one of the best thrash metal bands out of Australia, to be honest. You know, they're being around in the 80s, right? Late 80s, that's a long lineage. So that's, you know, it's not like somebody just came and went away like Silverchair, right? These guys were like solid. Their music was solid. And of course, Silverchair came around when grunge was a thing. So that really pushed them over, you know. So this is, you know, this is Mortal Sin, their song, Lebanon. Sounds of bombs run through the air in the streets of Lebanon. Hate-filled soldiers everywhere, the troops of Babylon, right? Blood stains on the footpath, madness on the ground, senseless forms of bloodbath as you hear the bugle sound. That's why I go doo 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 doo. Dodging the machine gun fire, fighting for their lives, killing with their heart's desire. No one can survive. The Battle of Lebanon, a killer. The Battle of Lebanon, destruction. Trenches filled with Muslim guards, rifles set to fire. Left, excuse me, left the enemy battle scarred, terrorist guns for hire. Right, and we're going to see, do a bit of like thing. We're going to see a bit of video about Syria. Yeah, terrorist guns for hire, right? Planning all the strategies to break the enemy's back, send out the kamikazes on a suicide attack. The Muslims and the Christians are fighting for their rights. Take the war of Lebanon to masochistic heights. Massacre and bloodshed are just a part of war. The children are defenseless and washed up on the floor. Aerial destruction and submarines below, shooting guided missiles to give the final blow. And then go back to the Battle of Lebanon, of killer, the Battle of Lebanon, of destruction. Trenches filled with Muslim guards, rifles set to fire, left the enemy battle scarred, terrorist guns for hire. So I'm going to play a little bit of from, now is it that one? No, it's, right, there we go. So that's the one, The Fall of Bashir. This is from Atheist Republic. And this is just from the intro by Amin, right? Nabavi. He's Middle Eastern, by the way. So this is the title of the video, and I'm not gonna play the whole thing. Just gonna play the intro to it because he gets 3 points about how you know, how the media portrays you know, these things, right? Whenever like wherever there's Muslims fighting Muslims, nobody gives a shit. Nobody, right? That even CNN sat down with a terrorist leader who's been designated as a terrorist, right, by America, by the UK, by the international community, and sits down with them and interviews him for propaganda for that leader, right? So as they go into slaughter people, right, that CNN goes in and goes, oh, so why did you want to do this interview at the end of it? Oh, you know, we just want to show that we're going to do this, and you know, we're here to be moderates and bring change. As they go around kidnapping Kurdish mothers, daughters, children, as they go around killing, torturing Christians, Muslim, like Arab Christians. I shouldn't say Muslim, Arab Christians, right? And then also fighting Kurds in the north, or is it in the south? I always get mixed up with like which part. Anyway, Turkey is fighting. Turkey is, by the way, a part of the NATO alliance, right? And nobody knows why. And I'm hoping that like they get kicked out, because here's what's happening. So Turkey's backing the Muslims, right, the terrorist groups, and also Turkish fighting Americans helping the Kurdish groups survive, right? Look, keep the peace. So now there's Turkish-backed Islamists fighting American-backed Kurds in Syria. All right. So if that isn't crazy, and why NATO should kick out Turkey, I don't know, right? Because the other thing is, that like Trump hates other NATO member groups not paying their money, right? In that alliance of whatever. And so I'm hoping that Turkey gets kicked out, and everybody, with all these people who've been relying on America, because it's always been about like, we hate America, but we've got to rely on them. It's like China does the same thing. It's like, we excuse me, snorted there. Apologies for that. Just breathed in wrongly. And then they'll basically, China will basically go, oh, those terrible people, right? And then I'll play a video about that, about how these Americans, they're terrible, terrible people. And then they'll go, oh, we need your money. They'll tell their people, like we've talked about this before, and we've shown that, right? How they'll tell their people that America's the devil. And then they'll like, we need to get into business with America. All right. So they'll even like the people in China, the normies, right? The people on the streets who are suffering can see through it online. And we're going to show you that soon. But this is only a couple of minutes. I'm going to play this because I want you guys to go check it out. Because these guys, they do a lot of research into this. They're not just like, it's not just one dude there sitting like me, right? But they actually do a lot of research into all these things that are going on. More journalism than, I'm even, I don't think I'd consider myself a journalist, but I love the whole idea of that, right? That was one of the things I was thinking about when I finished my final degree. It was like, maybe I should go and do journalism.
Shalom, everyone. We be live. How's everyone doing? I'm assuming most people here are happy. We were very happy on the Persian channel with the mostly Iranian audience. We were celebrating Assad's fall. I hope you guys are celebrating as well. Make sure you like the stream. I am going to be showing you videos that you might not see in other places, because we have a lot of coverage of Assad's fall, but not the stuff that we're going to be discussing on this channel. I am going to, first of all, show you a video. By the way, let me know how my audio is, and also let me know in the live chat that you have liked the stream. And also, thank you so much for Jean. Jean is here highlighting your comments, so thank you for your service, Jean. Guys, make sure the comments, I want to make sure that your comments are also part of the show. So comment in the live chat, and Jean will be highlighting that. Are you guys happy? Are you guys happy? Are you guys happy? Tell me if you're happy. I'm going to start with the first video to show you why many Iranian people are happy. All right. All right. Let me show you this, and you tell me, what do you think you're saying? What do you think you're saying? No. I will start with this one. I'll explain. Let me just explain it to you what you're saying. Okay. So these two first videos are basically the same thing. So as the HTS, the Sunni group that is leading the, in Syria, I was gonna say leading the war in Syria, but it's not even a war, and it's over. Syria, Assad has fallen. HTS has taken over Damascus and everything. But as they were coming, as they were expanding their territory, these are the shrines. These are the shrines that the Islamic Republic of Iran has constantly used as an excuse for why they're supporting Assad and why they're in Syria. There are 3 different narratives for 3 different people. For the religious people in Iran, the excuse for why the Islamic Republic of Iran was middling in Syria and supporting Assad was these shrines. They call themselves the guardians of the shrines. For the more secular-minded Iranian people, the excuse for the Islamic Republic of Iran fighting for Assad, suppressing their own people, helping Assad massacre its own people, the excuse was that we are fighting ISIS. And we have to fight ISIS beyond our borders so that we don't have to fight them at home. And I will respond to that narrative as well. And the third, and the actual truth is, so these are the narratives. The first narrative for the religious maniacs in Iran. The second one for the secular-minded people in Iran, mostly, the more nationalist types. The third one is the actual truth, is that the Islamic Republic is in Syria because it was the bridge for the axis of resistance to the borders of Israel. So this is the actual truth. The fall of Syria is arguably the end of the axis of resistance, because the Islamic Republic has lost its borders, the borders of its empire with Lebanon. And I will show you why they're desperately changing the narratives, and now HTS is cool, apparently, according to the Islamic Republic. I'll show you that as well. The narratives are shifting faster than HTS's takeover. Syria was key. The Islamic Republic was not in Syria to fight ISIS. I will show you that. Unlike these progressive, woke, leftist fucking idiots in American media will tell you that, Iran was in Syria fighting ISIS. Bull fucking shit. ISIS was an excuse. ISIS was a blessing to the Islamic Republic of Iran. I will show you evidence that the Islamic Republic went to save Assad before ISIS was a thing. They went to save Assad because everything for the axis of resistance relied on Syria. And by the way, fuck you to all the anti-Israeli people. Look at where all your protest has done. What has it done? Israel have come up stronger than anyone in this game. All your fucking boycotts, all your asking Yemen, asking the Houthis to turn another ship around. All the people who were supporting the axis of resistance because they were anti-fucking genocide. You're fucking losing. Your entire empire is falling apart. You're basically using this Islamic empire to fight the Zionists. Well, look, the horse that you bet on is falling apart. The axis of resistance is over. Without Syria, there's no fucking bridge anymore. Do you understand? The so-called Palestinian cause was all dependent on the Islamic Republic having borders, its empire, its Shia Christian having borders with Lebanon, and now that bridge has fallen. Who's laughing now? Who's passing it sweets now? You motherfuckers thought that October 7th was you winning. Who's winning now, motherfuckers? You were laughing, you were happy, you were...
Apologies for that. Armin does get passionate. As you'll notice, like, Persians, Arabs are very passionate people, right? And a lot of Westerners don't understand how they speak. And even in like when they're giving speeches and lectures in like Western places, like universities and stuff, they don't hold back. So because it's their cultural thing they do, right? And everybody has their own way of speaking, right? Like etiquette and stuff or whatever it is. But so it's like when everybody looks at Trump and goes, why the hell does he say what he says all the time before he, because that's what New York people are like, right? That's their whole thing. So the other thing is like us, like even in New Zealand, we have our own ways of speaking. We're very self-deprecating, you know. Um, we'll talk about how, we'll laugh at ourselves a lot more than, making somebody else a butt of the joke, right? We'll try to make sure there's enough humor in it towards us so that it doesn't so everybody enjoys the joke because we can all kind of become part of the joke, right? But Ahmed here is like, I've listened to enough Middle Eastern people to understand this is them. This is the way they speak. So yes, this is just at the start of his stream. So yeah.
We're passing sweets. Fuck around and find out, motherfuckers. Fuck around and find out. Anyways, let's look at their tears because the religious
That's what we want to look
motherfuckers,
at. Sorry, apologies for
they
that.
were there because these Sunni fundamentalists, these terrorists, they're gonna come destroy our shrines. They were in Syria defending Shia shrines. That was their namus, they call it. That's the thing they said that they're willing to kill their entire families, their own family.
Yeah. So what he's referring to, I mean, like, if you know about anything about, Islam, there is two hardcore sects, like the largest ones, the Shia and the Sunni. The Shia, and I always get them confused, right? Shia are like the most aggressive extremists, hardcore, ones who run around, screaming, and then they pick up a gun and start shooting everybody. And the Sunnis are more moderate, right? And you'll get the Arab Emirates and all that, Qatar, they're like enjoying their kind of, maybe not even Qatar, but Emirates, right? What was it, Qatar? But they're more moderate. They don't put towels over their people, right? Curtains and all that, bed sheets over their women and beat them, So Sunnis kind of like are the more moderate. So let me go back and make sure, because I always get them two mixed up. Because even in Hinduism, there's two, and it's kind of like in Christianity, there's two kind of like things, right? There's like, what is it like? Gosh, there's Catholicism, and then there is the other one. It's like brains just blanked out on them, right? Excuse me. And so with those two, this is that's the only way I can think of. But however, in Islam, yeah, it's all about destroying each other at the end of the day, especially in the Middle East. I don't know. The problem is that is coming to the West. So I was going to say, oh, I don't know, it's in the West. No, we know it's in the West. So because they bring their tribalism and their religion, sectarianism to to the West. And when I thought of the word sectarianism, that's basically like northern and southern Ireland, right? Back in the 80s and 90s, where they were fighting each other because they had the Catholics and the other ones. I think it was the Catholics to the north, and then you had non-Catholics to the south, right? And so they were fighting against each other. But that took years to sort out, and that was more to do with the fact, oh, you're lining up with UK, with the Brits against us, right? And that also had a place in a deep-rooted thing in history as to all the aggression there. But they all live in the same freaking, anyway.
ISIS from Al Qaeda, and as HTS was expanding, they were
Sorry, I'll just pop back to forward rather than going back. Apologies. I think it's about here. Yeah. Did I not press play? I didn't press play.
They're willing to kill their entire
Oh
families,
yeah, that's
their
the
own
one.
families,
Yeah.
to protect these shrines.
So this is how crazy, right? It all is. Like, because for them, religion is everything, right? It's like extremism. And this is what like the West doesn't understand, that like, or the extremists, they will do everything as devotion to their, you know, being upstairs or downstairs or wherever their being is, right? Uh, and so when you're not a person of religion, or if you don't have a religious background, you don't understand how hardcore this sort of thinking is when it snakes itself into that. You know, there's been times when in my past, in religious past, right, where I've like thought, oh, we could do this, and this will be the outcome, and not an extreme, but like just if we go and protest this, then there will be this, and then there will be that. But then you kind of think like, well, what is that going to prove to anyone, right? It's like, well, you know, that's not. I mean, that's a bit. People will see that as aggression rather than just people just saying, oh, yeah, you know, you're just being devoted to your, you know, to your religion. However, when you look at Islam and all you see and every day on TV, all you see is them either fighting you, right, the West, or they're fighting each other. So I don't understand how people still think that this is a good thing. This is a places where Islam, you know, Muslims live, not Arabs and Persians is their ethnicity, but the religion, Islam, Muslim, right, is where they live in the Middle East. And so if they're always constantly fighting, how do you, as a Westerner, think, well, it's a good religion to get, you know, to tack onto? Seriously, like, I mean, you know, you've got basically like a dozen or more. There's a whole list of people of sectarian violence and tribes fighting each other in one country called Syria, just in one country, right? But then that gets, you know, people then go, oh, we got to be refugees. Then they bring that same thing over to the West. Then they go, well, now we're gonna have our little tribe here in Yorkshire. We're gonna have our tribe over here in Manchester and Woodshire or whatever the hell, right? Liverpool, you know, York, all these places will have our own little, you know. And then you know what? Whenever we get, you know, whenever we get upset, we'll fight each other. But then if everybody else wants to, you know, be against Islam because they see us fighting each other, then we'll turn on them and call it Islamophobia. But hold on, all the other times we'll just fight against each other.
In Syria, defending Shia shrines,
Yeah.
Shia shrines. That was their namus, they call it. That's the thing they said that they're willing to kill their entire families, their own families, to protect these shrines from ISIS, from Al Qaeda. And as HTS was expanding,
Madness.
they were abandoning Syria. By the way, none of these fuckers were barking. As HTS expanded, they all left. The Syrian army, they let go of their arms. They retreated without fighting. And all the pro-regime Iranians in Syria, none of them stood their ground and fought. They were supposed to fight for these shrines. They all retreated. Every fucking single one of them retreated. The only time these people are brave, they were acting. The same motherfuckers that said the Jews are cowards. They will always retreat. The only time these people show bravery is against their own people. But now, as the HTS was expanding and they were retreating, this is the shrine that they were leaving behind and crying about the fact that they're leaving behind the shrines of their religious figures. Allah. Just enjoy the fucking tears. Enjoy the motherfucking these tears. These are the same people who are passing on sweets on October 7th. Look what October 7th done to you. Look at this is your tears. This is what October 7th has brought you.
It sounds so fake. It sounds so fake. It's like there's no usually like when you hear people crying, that emotion, even if they're not in your same language, right? Or ethnicity, whatever. If you can usually sense some sort of emotion that, like, yes, this is true. That how they're behaving is true. It's just, but like, there's no emotion to this guy. It's like they're like just feel that it's empty, hollow, things. But anyway,
They're basically saying their goodbyes. So as they're leaving, they're saying goodbye to the shrines, and they're worried about what's going to happen to these shrines when HTS takes over.
Yeah, this guy gets it, right? Like, check this out. Let's notice, because I was watching the full video. It's just a show. It's just a show. That's why they record it, right? It's just a show. Like this. This is just a show, right? It's how do you take people like this seriously? But you have to, because they're freaking killers, right? Like these, Ahmed just said, like they said themselves that they're willing to sacrifice their own family members, delete their own family members to protect these places, right? That's but and also, if somebody's willing to do that to their own, well, they will do whatever to anybody else. Hence suicide bombings and all that, right? Because there's no love for anyone, for humanity, for another person or anything, another culture, another ethnic person, right? Another minority, whatever you want to call it. They have no love for no one except for their God, that they will sacrifice. So if you even think about that, so if you have a religion that tells you to kill people, that is not a peaceful religion, right? Who oppose you, right? So if someone opposes you, your response is, well, then we're going to get rid of you. That's not peaceful. So I don't understand how people on the left, right, in the West cannot understand how, when I was thinking, like, just how, we think kamikaze was a bad thing in World War II, where the pilots would just dive bomb their planes into ships, killing everybody, but they had to do it because the emperor, Hirohito, I think it was Emperor Hirohito or Ito, basically was God to them, the voice of God, right? So they had to do it. They should not return alive from their mission, right? And it's the same with these guys. Like, how I don't understand how the West doesn't incorporate the fact or understand that if the extremes of this religion shows that they are willing to kill themselves and their family members and others, how can it be peaceful? Right? How does that even think, right? Does not compute, is what I mean. Like, it does not compute. My brain cannot comprehend.
All right, look at this guy. Look at this guy. So this guy is going into the shrine, and he says, these are the last moments that I could be in this shrine as HTS is coming, and he says all the Iranians have left. So watch this. and he's putting on the screen like he's saying, "Please pray so that ISIS doesn't can't come and take over the shrine."
1403 این تصاویری که می‌بینید از حرم حضرت رقیه سلام الله علیها شاید آخرین تصاویری باشه که از حرم می‌بینید.
So he's saying that this might be the last image pictures, the last videos that you see from this shrine, because they're assuming that HTS is ISIS, which it's not ISIS. It used to be Al Qaeda, and they think, oh, star Susanna's comments, because I want to make sure I read them. They think that obviously ISIS, if they come over, they're going to ruin the shrine. So he's saying that these are the last images that we're going to see from this shrine. By the way, Jolani, the leader of HTS, so far he seems to be tolerant. I know there are some people within the group that are doing questionable things, but so far the leader of HTS is not acting as, I know that he might change his behavior later, but as of right now,
which they always
he's
do.
being extremely tolerant. He's saying that he doesn't want to destroy any of the shrines. He wants to let everybody do their own thing, and he's also made it illegal to mandate the hijab. He's saying no to mandatory hijab. He came out and said that. It's unbelievable. The group that used to be Al Qaeda is making it illegal to make hijab mandatory, as the Islamic Republic of Iran has now issued the harshest hijab laws for a long time. So Al Qaeda is modernizing, and the Islamic Republic.
One thing I found really funny was like I shouldn't say funny, but like I don't do TikTok, right? I don't have TikTok. I removed it, right? Because the CCPs like they basically allow infestation of like anti-Israel, anti-West, and pro-transition, pro-grooming of kids on there, right? On TikTok. So because in their own country they don't allow any of that shit because it's totally controlled, but they will push that onto the West because that's another way of subverting the Western thinking, right? One thing that I saw a clip of, like I mentioned earlier, was that these soldiers, these terrorists, basically rounding up Kurdish women, right, as prisoners for whatever. As we know, they always do this, right? They did this with the Yazidi, ISIS did it with the Yazidi, Al Qaeda, whatever offspring, whatever terrorist group, and in the thousands with the young girls. They still haven't been returned. One of them ended up in Gaza, right? One of the horses said that we found, one of the young girls that were freed, right, from Israeli hostage, from that was free from Palestine. Basically said there was a Yazidi girl there. She'd been brought in as an 8-year-old. She's now 18, right? So, and here's what happens with these ladies: they get used, raped and all that. Then once that's the whole gang and all that, service to the tribes, to their to the other terrorists, then they'll be sold off. And then they'll be passed around and then sold off and sold off and sold off. Human trafficking. Because if they're not part of the Shia, they don't mean shit. And this is what I despise about the Western feminist liberal bullshit, is that they don't really think about that. They will tie themselves up with anything that will, just like China, like that will kind of change the Western thinking, that will protest against the Western mindset, democracy, right? Capitalism bad. So they'll go, oh yeah, because of that, but their dads, their mothers, their fathers, their family have tons of money. That's why they can go out and do and say all these things. You see them all like, healthy young white people most of the time, right? Or even, brown people, right? But then, of course, they're all students, so they'll go and protest on their days off, right? Or their classes are off, or or don't even attend because they have all the time in the world, right? Whereas, like, if you're like me, you basically don't have any time off because you're studying, and then you're going off to, like, what, as a student, right? Then you're going to work part-time. But these guys don't think about that because they don't have to worry about money because they got scholarships. They've, their parents are rich, so they can go out and upset everybody else's life. And that's what you'll see out there. It's not like poor people protesting at these things. You'll see people who are well off carrying out these protests, right? And like being pro-Israel and all that. And one of the craziest things is, like, I remember, like, when Greta Thunberg, right, when she was 60, it's about 25 years later now. When she came out, I was sitting, I think one of my nephew, because I was at my sister-in-law's house, sister's house, and my very young nephew, niece and nephews, right? We're sitting there and we're talking about that, and then my sister, I think she said, "Well, what do you think of Greta Thunberg?" I said, "She's an idiot, right? Because, like, she's at 16, you don't understand the world, and you don't understand how things work. You don't understand that people are evil downright. That there are people that, like, will just, like we just mentioned, that will just sacrifice their family for their God, for their belief, right? And then they'll sacrifice themselves for it. And yet you've got someone here who thinks that she should tell the world on how to live, yet never being outside her own country in her entire life. Who's basically, for me, and I could see it because I looked into, like I said, like anytime I kind of like pick up on a topic, I want to say, well, I want to learn more about it. So I looked into a thing, and it seemed like it was all a staged thing, and that there was a politician from the leftist Green Party, and I can't remember where she was from, uh, and then they propped her up, put all this money behind her, and, like, all the way to the UN, lecturing the leaders of the world about climate change. However, as soon as October 7th happened, she went over and started pro-Israel, death to America, all that. She was all there. So there was a clip recently. I thought I'd put it up, but I think it might be on my Facebook. Let me just grab it. But yeah, I thought it was just crazy. It's like, or would it be on Twitter? I think it might be on Twitter because I shared it yesterday, and it was like, because it came across, it was just like what she says on it and stuff. It's like, how do you go from, like, all about climate change and stuff, and then now you basically are, anti-Israel, anti-democracy, you're anti-America, you're pro-terrorist, you're wearing the freaking symbol, which isn't actually historically a symbol of Palestine, but actually of the Iraqi people. And and I saw a whole thing about this. The Traveling Clad did it, talked about what those symbols mean, and it's got nothing to do with Palestine, right? The little markings on it. Yet, just like the swastika taken by the Nazis and used as a symbol of war and terror, right? It basically so has that scarf, right? And the thing is, like, it just feels, a lot of times that's what, leftist commies will do, is will take something that's good, and they'll change the meaning for it, because that way it's like it's basically subjugating, no, sorry, not subjugating, changing the meaning of words, right? That they'll basically try to show you, well, this means this and not that. Now it's like, it's constantly, like, that's why words, like, constantly changing. So let me see if I can find out where was it. Oh gosh, I thought Weird. I can't seem. Yeah. Was it? Maybe it's a reply. Apologies, guys, for taking this long. Usually, I try to be on top of it, but wasn't even thinking about playing this, playing this video or what, talking about this, but like that's why I'm a bit lost here. Here we go. Found it. Okay. All right. So this is it was shared by David Vance yesterday on Twitter, right? So here, look at this. So this is just a 13-second clip, but look at this. So this is what I was talking about, like the scarf, right? It's got nothing to do with Palestine, because Palestine isn't a real place. Like, it's not a state, it's not a country. It's a group that's been put together by the Europeans, right? And then also by the Iran and surrounding people, right? The history is that they didn't even have a president, they didn't have an army, they didn't have a governance, they didn't have any politicians. It was just a group of people there. Then basically when Israel was, they had to, return somewhere, because they've been, terrorized all around the world, especially after World War II. They said, well, why don't you return home to your country? You are Israel after all, and this is go back to Jerusalem, Jews, right? And we'll maybe that way you can protect yourselves. And then, of course, they all turn around and say, well, we can't have this. These people return back. Oh, no, we'll put we'll prop up this little thing called the Palestinians, and then we'll have them there. And there'll be a buffer. And we'll use it to, like, basically terrorize these Jews forever. And then the useful idiots, like this moron, right, tags herself to it with the most, I mean, she probably has never read a thing on it, because she's got a minder, right? Since she's been 16 years old, or maybe earlier, she's had a minder, right? Leftist minder, who's basically, especially politicians, basically, and her parents, right? Teaching her that this is what to say, this is what you do when you get up there, do this, right? It's what, we in the West call useful idiots, right? They're just tools of the system, right? And to fact, I think this was in Germany, right? So she's actually saying this is Germany. Let me just check. Yeah, I think because it's got 9 there, so that's like no, right, for Germany, right? So this was actually in Germany.
Fuck Germany. And fuck Israel.
Yeah. See all those people cheering for destruction, cheering for terrorists, with what is now the symbol of terrorism, right? Hamas, right? And it's like her whole life has been a lie, right? A media orchestrated lie by the leftists. I mean, for the last 6 years, the moment, like I'm sitting there with my, family members, and I'm saying, like, look, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or whatever she's talking about. She's just been told to talk about that, right? Here, now this is what you say, all right? It's just it's crazy, right? While we're here on Twitter, let me just pull up this here. So this is in Holland now, right? In Holland, white primary school kids are required, right? In Holland, right? Not in the Middle East, right? Not Syria, not Lebanon, not Iran, not Iraq, not Pakistan, but Holland. They're required to learn to pray in a mosque and show respect for Allah. This is called indoctrinating your own children against yourselves, right? Because, like I said, their whole thing is like, we'll sacrifice our family and ourselves for our belief, right? For Islam, right? So it's I don't know how the West has been sleeping on this for so long, that they will allow their children Because here's the thing, like we've had, in the West, we've had separation from church and state, right? So whereas like you can't do religious teaching in schools because separation of church and state, secularism, right? You do your thing over there in your churches and your temples or whatever, and we'll run the country, and you will obey our country's laws that we have made up as a majority. Your religion will not have any effect on what we do as a nation and what our rules are, right? Whatever you want to freaking do in your own little, thing, religious thing, you do that. The moment you break the laws of the land, you get punished. So, if you stay away from breaking our laws, then you can continue carrying out your religious beliefs, right? Rituals, whatever, traditions. But so it's crazy then and Holland's not the only one, right? It's the UK as well. All right. So I was going to play this other thing, but I'm going to show you while we're just there. This young kid in Britain, all right? I can find it quickly. Here you go. So this is crap. I was going to play on another page. So this is a British kid, right? Hopefully it pops. A bit of a delay there. Apologies, guys. So
the recent outcry from a British student has become a powerful symbol of a deepening crisis in the UK's educational system. They are forcing us to learn about Islam and Muhammad in school. I don't want to know, he narrates. I want to learn about my culture. I'm proud to be English. These words, echoing through social media, have struck a chord with thousands of concerned British parents and citizens, highlighting a disturbing trend in British schools. Take a listen. This is disgusting.
In schools, they're pressuring us to learn about Islam and learn about the people that are coming over. I don't want to learn about that. I want to learn about my culture, my beliefs, and I'm proud to be English.
Have they taught you about the Bill of Rights?
No.
Did you learn about the Battle of Agincourt?
No. In school, they were teaching us about, about Islam, about Prophet Muhammad, and all their ideologies. They barely covered Christianity at all.
Did they tell you about how he was a warlord?
So you guys, they barely cover anything about Christianity at all, right? But they will teach you everything to do with Allah and Muhammad and all the Quran and stuff. So how does the West, who basically said we want separation from church and state, right? For decades, for generations, right? For centuries, right? Because of all the problems, like, because they're worried about the religious people imposing their religious beliefs on people who don't believe in their religious belief. This is why they had separation of church and state. But now, in an insidious way, Islam is being taught and forced onto children in the West. Like you said, I don't even want to learn about that crap, right? They're not even teaching me about my own culture, about my own law, the things that I should know about my own country, right? But that has been pushed aside because they want us to learn about Islam and Muhammad, about the Middle East, that got nothing to do with me, right? About living in my country and succeeding in life, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about indoctrination. This is why we separated church from state, so that you and your children and your children's children won't have your thinking like religion forced onto you. All right. Even in New Zealand, there are religious studies, but they're not like there might be like religion in school, kind of like RE, right? Religious education in public schools, but that's only for the when they're invited in by the parents in agreement with the PTA, with people that run it there, and only during lunchtime, not part of the school learning time, the curriculum time, not during when like, class sit down, we're going to look, we're going to do social studies, we're going to do art class, right? It's during lunchtime because I went to one of them to see what was going on. This is like about 20 years ago, right? So I don't know what's going on now. But also a lot of the churches and so on, and whatever, they have set up their own schools as well as part of the church, right? So about part of the belief system, and that's fine because it's not interfering with everybody else, right? If you want to send your kids to that, you want to pay for private tuition, that's fine. But it's a public circular school, and you should be teaching kids without religion. Religion should be part of your home and your life, and you can send them to church on Sunday or Saturday, whatever day you choose, your religion chooses to follow, right? As that day. But to turn around and then like go, oh, you're going to open the door to Islam, right? Not only like, oh, look, they're like kind of like, oh, this is what they study. No, you have to be taught those in classes on purpose. Oh, why is that? Oh, because we have a lot of Muslim people here. They might get offended if we don't teach them about Christianity, or if we speak about Christianity and not teach their language, or if we don't teach about Muhammad at school in our Western circular country, they'll get upset. They'll start protesting, right? And they do. And so it's like, and a lot of times they don't want people, normal people just don't want to deal with the stress of it all, right? Of having to deal with these morons like trying to impose their things. But the problem there then is that every step you give up, they'll take a mile. So it's important not to, because at the end of the day, we've seen what happens when kids are indoctrinated with a dangerous religious belief, right? They grow up into friggin', killers, right? You see all the white kids that grew up in that or transitioned to Islam, you can see that basically end up attacking their own local areas or cities, whatever, or they go and join ISIS or Al Qaeda and butcher more people, right? And I don't have to show you all that because it was world news, right? And if you haven't seen that, well, maybe because in your country the mainstream rules and you don't get to see that. So that's why I love having to be able to be on the internet and having access to all types of news, right, from around the world, from citizens journalism all the way to well-established internet researchers and all that stuff, whatever you want to call them, but not sticking to that just one person, looking at several, right? So earlier this morning, I just woke up about an hour ago or something, like hour and a half ago, half an hour, 40 minutes before I came online, right? So I missed this live one, but I missed the live stream, but I caught the replay of this, and this is from 2CTV. Excuse me. So this is
clearly there is a conversation between Putin and Assad, who's currently.
So he's talking about like Islamists now who are in Syria, and I posted about this a couple of days ago about how like the same thing's going to happen that happens everywhere, when Muslims start fighting against each other, Islam start fighting each other, when they try to topple each other's governments, or they invade, or they get together and they start fighting somebody else. They then turn outward, right? So there's a couple of videos I want to show you here about how they went from basically, oh, we're gonna free our people, from Assad, to we're gonna kill the Kurds, we're gonna kidnap the women and take them with us, to we're gonna destroy all the Christian churches, which Assad was doing as well, right? But also now we're going to turn our efforts all on Kurdish people. We're going to turn our attention on the Christians. So this, and then also now that we've chased Assad out, we've basically destroyed the infrastructure. we're now going to turn our eyes to Israel, right? Which has always been the key, right? It's always been like the target. It's never like I told you guys like a while back about how the first Iranian I ever met in my life, like forever, I was like around about 30 and he was around about in his 20s, right? Because I just I got hired to work at this place. Hardly knew this dude. He was in the same department as me, selling furniture, right? And he said to me, you know, Aro, if there's one thing I must do in my life, is I must kill a Jew. I'm like, what? It's like, yes, that is my one goal in life, that I must do that before I die. I'm like, okay. Never heard that before from any other race of people or any other religious people. And I'm in my 30s now, and I've been in many, many religious places, right, and organizations, and among very different, religions like Hindu. I've actually, I've been around Muslims as well, but I've never even had them say it, right? I guess because they had more etiquette, right, to not be so vocal. But and Hindus have never said that to me about Muslims or Christians. I've never had Christians say that about Muslims or Hindus or any other faith, because death isn't what they're thinking. It's like, well, God loves us and we want to share the love with others, right? And if they don't want it, then we'll move on to somebody else who might want it. But no, he wants to tell me in his mid-20s that he must kill a Jew because that is his goal in life, because he's been indoctrinated since childhood to think that way. And this is why, going back to the kids, being indoctrinated that if Allah is the one, according to them, the one true God, even though if you look at his people, they're freaking barbarians and killers and terrorists, you should know them by their fruits, right? That's one of the things in the Bible, right? You should know them by their fruits, which means by their labors, right? What do? You shall know them by their actions. If they preach peace, 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 then they start killing people, then, well, they're not peaceful, are they? Right? So, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had to Maya's face
How successful that's going to be, we don't know, considering that most of the Russians are currently in Ukraine, and they don't really have enough resources, and the Wagner group have been completely messed up. Most of their resources are also still in Africa anyway, the Wagner group. But let's go about the Islamist nutters, the smelly weirdos. They've decided they got a couple of the different.
By the way, Maya's from families from Iran, right? So he can say that, I guess. But I mean, of course, I played that video last time. How Muslims now in the West are saying that women wearing makeup and wearing this, it's on my channel here. You can see on the shorts, I think, wearing makeup and deodorant and perfume means that they're possessed by demons, right? So him basically saying that is like, it's basically, I guess in a way tongue in cheek about how, let's just watch. Anyway, I'll just play this while I find this other video.
Leadership, both in the west of Syria and also in the center of Syria, just with the border where they're fighting with the Kurds. They've come out to make statements saying that they're going to be making a move against Israel to wipe out the state of Israel, to take control of Jerusalem. Let's go to the first video. It's subtitled, so you can actually see what they're saying.
وكذلك المسجد الأقصى وكذلك مسجد محمد وكذلك الكعبة ندخلها بإذن الله. مكبرين مهللين متعطعين الرؤوس ذليلين لك يا رب الكافرين والله أكبر.
So this is the religion that they want British kids, white British kids, and black British kids, Indian British kids, right? Because remember, there's not just white people living in in the UK, even though that is their nation, right? It's a white nation, and also Holland. They don't just want Muslims kids to be learning this; they want everybody to learning about their God. And like I said, their God, right? Little G, right? Wants to basically have people sacrifice them. That's what he's saying. It's like, we'll give you heads of people. We'll give you basically bodies. Like we'll sacrifice these bodies to you, right?
Okay, dear, if you say so, you can try. You will fail, but as we said, so you got different groups right now. There's been some coordination in terms of the messaging because they're all decided from both the center and the western parts of Syria, which is around the border essentially with the other countries. They've decided to say, what we're going to do, we're going to post all of us at the same time on social media saying we're going to take back control of all the Arab land and also Jerusalem. Why not? They're going to go to Mecca. They're going to go to Israel. Clearly, they're going to go for Lebanon as well at this point. But meanwhile, the IDF are continuing the operation, the counter-terrorism operation in Syria. They've been destroying the chemical sites because these are very important. You've got chemical weapons, warehouses, all the manufacturing areas that they have to destroy because obviously if it gets into the hands of the idiots, they can do whatever they want. So let's quickly go and have a look at what's been going on in terms of these.
So I've got the rest of the link there in the chat, right, for this video, so you guys can check that. But I just want to show you some clips, right? So this is about NATO, like I was telling you earlier about NATO.
Syria going forward. But meanwhile, Erdogan, if you talk about Turkey and Turkey's role, they are getting involved. Yes, the Turks are attacking Syrians. Erdogan has ordered his Turkish forces and also massive support for the Tahrir al-Sham to go and attack the Kurds. The Kurdish community are trying their best to defend themselves. They're not really being supported right now. I mean,
This is the same people that were like had chemical attacks from Iraq by Saddam, 100,000 of them in the 90s. He drops chemical weapons on them and like totally wiped them out. 100,000. Boom. So that's why you can see women training to fight, because they've realized that, like Israel, and they also have females, right, in their army, have realized that, yes, we must all take part in defending ourselves. We cannot allow despot leaders or anybody else, do that to us again. So these are the Kurds, right, in Syria.
The US and the Western forces are verbally supporting the Kurds. They don't have the resources. We have some US bases, obviously, in the region. They are bombing some of the enemy, but they're too busy hitting Tahrir al-Sham in the west of Syria, which is dominated by them. And Damascus is obviously that side. But the Kurds are currently being attacked, but they're defending themselves anyway. Try to make it simplified. We've done a video, obviously, on this channel a week ago or so about explaining who is who in terms of the groups and the rebels. But thanks to Mario, obviously, it made it simple in terms of what's going on. A Turkish-backed, obviously, Syrian rebel group is currently fighting a US-backed Syrian rebel group. Both of these groups also fought against Assad. Remember, both the US and Turkey are part of NATO, but now there's a proxy fight between two NATO members. The world is a global game of chess, and the pawns are human lives. So considering Turkey is still part of NATO, essentially there's NATO versus NATO right now, proxy. But there has to be a conversation, as I've been saying for the past few days, about the role of Turkey in NATO. And I think nothing's going to happen now until Donald J. Trump becomes officially president from January. And then we're going to find out what happens next, because Trump has big plans for NATO. His first plan is obviously the financial contributions from other member states.
All right, so I talked about that earlier, right? About NATO and stuff. So here's a little video about that whole smelly thing about, you know, that I mentioned earlier. So this is one of like dawahs, right? Like Muslim evangelizers, right? Or preachers online, and there's a lot of them right now, like a lot of prominent YouTubers are now tacking on Islam as part of their thing because they have a bigger audience. And also the other thing is that when you do that, when you start promoting Islam, that you get a lot of money, right? You get a lot of super chats and large amounts. Then you also get to speak to these other people, right? And so they then take you on to other people, and next thing you know, because they see you as a, you know, preaching and teaching and promoting Islam, because that's what they want. They want to change the whole world to Islam. That's their whole thing, right? But this one I found really funny. This is like, you know, this dude, one of them, right? And these are all guys who live in the West. So they use social media, what the extremists say is evil. They use mobile phones, which they say it's evil and you should not use, right? Technology is evil, so you should not be using that. It goes against Allah's, you know, thing. You shouldn't have images of people, right? On your looking at images of people. That's why all their text is always written in Arabic. There's no image of Allah anywhere, right? Because he's a ghost, right? So here we go. This is like, you know, they want, my whole thing is they want Western women to look ugly and stink.
My sisters, you have to understand that you do not just have to.
I always crack up at the British accent. It's like this really tinny. There's no bass in their thing, and like, because when they speak Arab, it's really bass, right? It's like, you know. But like when they speak English, it's like so emasculating the way they speak. And I've heard a couple of them. They always sound friggin' the same. It's because they're not used to speaking English, and so when it comes across, it becomes really feminine, really trebly, you know. So, well, yeah.
Fear the perverted eyes of the men, the evil eyes of the perverted men that are watching you and undressing you with their eyes.
I don't know how to say this, but we've seen enough Muslim, Middle Eastern, and East Asian men do a lot of gang violence against females, to not be afraid, to be afraid of them, and not be afraid of, you know, a lot of other ethnic groups, right? Because to be honest, we only know two groups in the world, in a sense, like, and I think with India, and you've heard enough about Indians, and I've mentioned this, where there's violence towards Indians in a religion that says women are like goddesses, that they're like God to children, right? And this is why I get offended by the whole idea that you could preach that mothers and sisters, you know, are gods to children, and then have violence towards them, right? But not as much as Islamists, Muslims, Middle Easterns do towards women. As I mentioned earlier, they were rounding up Kurdish women in Syria right now as property, as reward, right, to their men, to the terrorists. But he's saying, worry about, cover yourself up so that men like him right? Men like him don't see you as beautiful, so that their eyes, that they get full of demons and chase after you and stuff, right? Because you have to worry about those guys, not the brown people like him, who have been doing that to children, right, all around the world in high numbers, not little numbers, high numbers, majority, like gangs of them. And we talked about that in the previous stream, right? So, but the whole idea is, hey, woman, you should not look pretty, you should smell, you should not dress well, because it's the man. You will make men excitable. You'll make them lust after you, not that like men should freaking control themselves, right? And they do, unlike men from his culture, because they don't, right? But now you got to watch about the Western people, right? That's why it's like, because he's preaching to the Western Muslims and Western women. He's not preaching to his own people back home, right? Because they're already under control. But he wants to now control people in the West and women in the West, because he wants to save them from men, right?
As you walk down the street looking so beautiful in your clothes, tight, makeup, perfume, attract.
Yeah, you're going to attract people like me to come and grape you and molest you in public or in the street, right? On the trains, in the buses, in taxis.
Attractive, alluring. It's not just the perverted eyes of the evil men, but rather you also have to understand that you are being.
Yeah, it's your fault. It's you because you're dressing nicely. Yes, it's my sister's fault that she wears some deodorant or or perfume, because she's working all day, and it's and so because she's lifting guys, because she's a nurse and she's got to move them around, or girls or ladies, elderly people, because of her work. It's her fault for wearing perfume or deodorant, because those men might attack her because they're evil. However, as we've shown talked about before, that these are the very people who will run over women, who will punch and beat up a woman who incorrectly wear the hijab, who will basically whip them in public. And this is what they want to say they want in the West now, because he's part of the Sharia, right? It's the Sharia thing, right? The extreme rules, Islamic rules on women and on people who do not believe in Islam, right? And do believe in Islam, whatever, right? Both swords, right? Both edges of the same sword, right? Double-sided sword is what I mean. But it's just the insanity. And these are people that are preaching this have millions of followers. And so they're indoctrinating kids out there who watch them, or teenagers, whatever, whoever's watching them, right? Under the guise of religion. And they can say all these things and hate on the West, but they use the West to get money, to promote themselves, so they can spread Islam, right?
Watched by the demons from the realm of the jinn as well. And many a time it happens. So much I have dealt with these situations, my beloved sister.
Wait, so you are evil and you've done this yourself then? Right? Is that what you're trying to say? You've dealt with this? Right?
That there is a sister and a jinn falls in love with her.
Wait, so see, these are they're not supposed to believe in mysticism, but they're very pagan, right? Because their own religion says you can't be thinking about magical beings. By jinn, he means genies, right? What is it, like Aladdin, the blue genie, played by Will Smith in the last one, but done proper, better, and an animated one with Robin Williams, I think was that Robin Williams? I think it was Robin Williams. I think that's the only one I've seen, is the one with the Robin Williams one. But he's saying like magical beings inside the man, right? They're walking around hunting your woman because of the way you dress. What?
So he touches himself to her. And she is now possessed.
Wait,
and then he
and so wait, I got that wrong. So these magical beings attaches themselves to pretty looking women. And now what?
Every time it happens, I have seen that because the jinn is in love now.
So this clown is saying that magical beings attach themselves to pretty women, and because they now look pretty, or because they put on makeup and deodorant, now they're possessed by magical beings. Anyway,
He destroys the girl's life. He doesn't allow her to get married.
so because now she's like looking after herself and, you know, dressing nice, thinking about careers, thinking about education, because all of a sudden she's possessed by some mystical, magical being, right? That now, because she doesn't want to get married, because she's thinking of her future and think of like looking after herself, you know, and like maybe not relying on other people to, you know, she is now possessed.
Anytime she moves to getting married, he destroys, stops it from happening. Or if she does get married, he causes problems between the husband and the wife.
Do you see the backwards thinking on this? Like, this is the last video I'm going to play on this, then we're going to move on to the TED Talks and the groomers, right? I just can't, like, seriously, like, I cannot comprehend this, right? The thinking, and this is how they think, though. There's not just one person thinks this way. This is who they preach to. The millions they preach to in the West, this things, right? That if you are looking after yourself as a female, that you're going to gym, that you're going to aerobics or whatever, or you're working, or you're getting educated, or you're dressing nice, or you're wearing deodorant, or wearing makeup, or you're getting your hair done. Because he's really, really going at Western ideals here. It's like, you know, freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of looking like you want to, right? How you dress, right? Of course, there's etiquette. You know, you don't walk around naked and thing, you know, but like you dress proper enough, but at least, you know, because otherwise people will go, dude, have some shame, right? But his thing isn't like, oh, well, you know, I'm worried because you're going to be doing well. No, he's worried because now you're going to attract the mystical beings, and men who are possessed by these mystical beings will be like lusting after you, right? But it's basically he's saying like, don't do that, because we won't have you won't be able to be under our control, because as you know, Middle East people, you know, men want to control women. You know, they have control over their bodies. They like there's a clown I saw whose tablecloth wife wasn't even allowed to speak to him as he preached to YouTube. She had to write it down on a whiteboard, her thinking. And of course, you know that she can't, you know, say exactly what she feels, because you can't embarrass your man, right, to his millions of followers, because, you know, they can't see the bruises under those tablecloth. They can't see the black eyes. They can't see the belt marks, or the broken nose, or the bleeding lips, because it's easy to hide those things when you can't see anything but the eyes. All right. That's the other thing that people don't think about. Why, what could, the other thing about why these women have to wear the tablecloth over their whole body, because you don't know, right, what they look like, right? And so you don't know what's going on in that family outside of those walls. And so, imagine the terror that the females have to live under, but then they can't actually go, hey, this is how, in public, they have to push that. Yes, I feel free. Well, are you really though, when we can't see, or not that we should want to, but like the bruises that when someone won't let you speak and you have to write down your thoughts because you're not allowed to speak. How free are you? Remember freedom of speech, right? How free are you when you're not even allowed to speak, when you're not even allowed to show that you're, don't need to see you, but how beautiful you are, how, because it's possession of by the male over the female body and form, everything, the thinking, the speech, the look, the dress, it's all controlled. But this is what he wants to tell us, right? This is what he wants to bring into the West.
And they're not happy. Wallahi, I beg you, sisters, when you wear that perfume, yes, you're disobeying Allah. Fear.
What? Because you don't want to smell, and therefore people go, ew, what the hell is, who doesn't have good hygiene here? You're on a bus, and then everybody goes, is that from the Middle Eastern lady? Or is that from the Hindu? Or is that from the Asian lady? Okay. And then it's like, oh, they're racist now. I was on a bus and, people were moving away from me. They were pointing at me because, like, telling other people, whispering, hey, I think it's those guys. That's the person that's smelling. And I'm moving away. They were moving away from me. And then yeah. Look how racist this country is. Right? But this is what he's preaching. To bring, and as I mentioned on this channel, if you watch me enough to say, like, stereotypes are real, right? And they matter, right?
Fear him and fear the next life. And that makeup and those tight clothes, if you're not wearing your jilbab as you should be wearing, then not only are you angering Allah, and if you do not fear Allah, at least fear the fact that the shaitan can possess you.
Yeah, shaitan being Satan, right? I actually made a mistake when I was in Fiji, because I thought, like, shaitan meant God, because I hadn't been to Fiji for ages, and I was speaking, and afterwards I got taken aside and said, hey, no, that actually means devil. Right? That's the devil, right? To do with the horns, right? And tail and all that stuff. The fallen angels, Lucifer, right? And we in the metal scene know that a lot, because I've always thought this is the weirdest thing about heavy metal, and people who actually, sing about the devil and all this, and become very anti-Christian and all this. It's like, why are you, if Christianity isn't such a big thing and isn't important or isn't something, why are you talking about the devil all the time? So if the devil is real, then Christianity is real, right? Then not Christianity, then Jesus is real, right? Then God is real, right? So you must at least believe that there's a God if you're gonna believe there's a devil, right? But that's why, like, I've always, like, stayed away from heavy metal, even though I love it, where it's like a dark metal, black metal, because they're more like about, death and all glorification, devils and all that, demons, and not in a way of like, hey, this is fun, right? Like fairies wear boots type of fun, right? And that's from Black Sabbath, by the way. I think it's on. Is it from Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I think it's that one. I'm not sure. Could be the last. I think it's one of the albums is the last song on B-side or something. But but having heavy metal bands talk about demons and devils and stuff, and then go, oh, we're very anti-Christian, Christians against God. It's like, well, but that means you believe, right? If you believe in the devil, you got to believe in God, right? Because there's two opposites, right? You can't believe in one and not believe in the other. Because how do you, like, your brain doesn't compute? It's like this dude, right? If you believe in magical beings called genies that attach themselves to women, and now those women start wearing makeup and start wearing deodorant, right, so they don't smell, who now get their hair done nice so they look pretty, that attracts men, and not always, because some are lesbians, so they will attract females. So he's targeting all females, by the way. He's not just going those who are just attracted to males, but he's also attracted to females, or females who are attracted to them, right? Because in his eyes, men are evil because women dress nice and smell nice, right? Men are evil because it's the woman's fault, because magical beings attach themselves to the woman. But basically what it is like, it's not about that at all. It's basically about controlling the woman, right? All it is about controlling the female. And if feminists alone could understand this, that the whole basis of Islam is to control females, right? Is to, subjugate them to things. And this is why they're growing so fast, isn't because, they're, that they, love the woman or anything. It's because they want to have as many children, because that spreads their religion. And, Christianity does that a lot as well. But also Catholicism, I should say, because, they don't want to talk about contraception and stuff, and, force, so on. And then, like, you have children out of, young mothers having to give up their children and babies and stuff, because, hey, you can't get rid of them. You can't have abortions, which I'm pretty much anti, except for certain things, right? Situations. But like the whole idea that females are the fault, like it's their fault that they're getting abused and gang raped by these people of his ethnicity, majority. Like, I just saw, gosh, what was it? Like, there was a new item just from a couple of days ago about how a lady who was abused by one of them, right, Middle Eastern man, right, who got off, and she, on social media, she called him a pig, so she was going to go to jail for 2 years because her molester was, sorry, because the person molested her and she called him a pig. Now she's going to jail for calling the molester a pig. Another one, right, and this is kind of, I guess, we're going to lead slowly into what we're going to talk about today. Where's the other one? Yeah, but let me play this one first so we can get out of this clown's video.
Wallahi, it's not a joke. This is not hocus pocus.
Wait, how can you say about genies being a real thing and then go, it's not a joke, it's not hocus pocus?
Wallahi, these are things I have seen, I've dealt with in my...
So you're a very lustful, evil man who sees women as targets for your lust, right? Because that's what he's saying. Because he believes in hocus pocus, and he believes in genies attaching themselves and possessing females, right, to corrupt men. We know women, tend to do that to a certain, a smaller percentage, right? That's why it got people on the streets, right? That's where that saying comes from, right? But he's talking about all women in general, and he's trying to do it in a way is like help the men, right? Help the men, because if you don't do these things, come under the control of the man.
Personally, I've dealt with these situations. So please cover yourself, protect yourself, and read your adhkar to make sure that you are safe, inshallah.
I just can't take that dude seriously. Anybody in that whole scene of Islam with like the black pill, red pill, whatever the pills they freaking talk about, but mainly it's all based in their religion. It's all about control. It's like about them not willing to control their own lusts. And I was, we're like, when you like, I think it was because I have a religious background, right? And so when people say these things, I can my brain kind of goes, oh yeah, that time I heard that and that, oh, that's reference that. So yesterday I was out, like, we were going to live stream, but then I had to go to my doctor, get a certificate, do like a, well, how's your body doing? What meds are working for you and what isn't, and so afterwards I went, I realized I needed to like have away from this, right? To just go real life for a couple hours. And so I went out walking with my mate and, ended up, shopping and whatever, the usual walk around, because for my health, I like to at least spend 5 hours a week walking, because it's sort of like, and it's you got to do that even if you not have, head or neck and spine injuries like me, but it's good for your health to walk around, right? Get that fresh air in and get your body moving, right? Otherwise you end up like with a lot of people who stream, who are very overweight and very, gross looking, to be honest, and unhealthy. And I think that's one thing that we need to be ashamed about, to say. I'm like, and I've always tried to be healthy, but it just doesn't work when you're taking meds all the time. So, but I was talking to him about like how it's not we're talking about land. It's talking about family issues, right? We're talking about how like wills, right? How people fight each other over inheritances and stuff. And then we talk about like money, right? Because all of that comes from like not money itself, like the numbers, like the, where is that little, here it is, like this thing, not the paper and the metal, right? It's nothing to do with this. It's the love of it. Because people, I mean, you can work for this and get some more any day. But people tend to love and lust after money, not the fact that they can use it for something in their lives, earn it or work at it or whatever, right? But when they suddenly get it, they will, they'll fight each other, they'll kill each other. And he was talking about the stories that he'd read on Reddit. And then we talked about my family and talked about his family and things that happened in our families, where we found that people who lusted after things that somebody else had, and they basically destroyed relationships in the family, not being happy with inheriting, what they were supposed to, because it's not like they deserve it. When you inherit something, it's like somebody loves you enough to give it to you, or to give a part of what they've worked their asses off their entire life to give to you. So, and if you receive something like, it's a gift. And so you should be happy with it and not complain or moan about or fight for more. And so, we're just talking about like how like, it's the lust, it's the craving, it's the desire, it's the wanting something, right? to where it's like it controls you. And I just thought, like, this is basically what comes down to with him, right? That dude, like, talking about help us not be controlled by our lust. It's like, dude, you're the one in control of your faculties. And this is kind of also leads into, you know, what we're going to talk about with TED Talk, is that people like these guys, right, 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 are basically out there because they say that they can't control their lusts because women are so pretty. These Western women, right? Because they've never seen them in their own countries because they're all covered in tablecloths and curtains. So they haven't learned, right, to not lust after women in a way that then they turn around and violently attack them. Right? Look at this. Right? So Germany, and this is from June. There's another one just came out this week, October. I mean, this couple of weeks ago, right? Because by the time you get the news actually coming out, it's already been months, right? Because by the time they get to the court and stuff, and we hear about it in the West, right? And this is the Telegraph, is in UK. Yeah, UK. So this is by James Jackson in Berlin, right? So this Berlin journalist. Germany, rape. They actually have a topic, right? That they have. This is how bad it is. They actually have a topic that you can search like in the search bar. Chuck it in the search bar or whatever here, and then you can like bring it up, right? Germany. So, and as we, the previous streams, we talked about how UK, right? And the other thing that's happening now in Aussie, there's been like a 5th attempt of kidnapping young kids. 5th. That was only 2 days ago. I think it was a day ago I found it. I saw the report on that. When was it? Thought I had it open, but like, yeah, so that was a 4th attempt 2 weeks ago. Then there was a 5th attempt. So before we get to that, I'm just going to read this right quickly. And then we'll move into the whole grooming and shit. Usually I try to get to the main topic an hour in, but sadly I think we've gone over that at the moment. Apologies for that. So let's go to this. German woman given harsher sentence than rapist for calling him pig. Just take that in. P-I-G, pig. For calling him a pig. Maya are jailed for defaming gang rapist by messaging him with their views after he avoided prison. Right? Dang it. I had this other one open before. Hold on. Let me see if I can get the archives. Hey, well, maybe I'm going to have to like, is it Internet Archive? Where are we? Let me see if I can get to it. Archive, yeah, it's so archive.org, right? Let me see, get the new. Maybe I should donate to archive.org because they've got a like wait, you're not gonna it takes me to the web page. I went to do the title, one of the web page. Okay. And I think it's probably because I turned my VPN off when I stream, because otherwise it sometimes gets. Why is it giving me notes? June 28th. What day was that? That was June 28th. Yeah, it was June 28th. Let me just see it. Dang it. Now I gotta look at the time. 4:50. Oh, 450. So what is that like? Yeah, I think it's 456. Let's try that. I'll show you what I'm looking at. Apologies, guys. You just seen that stupid screen. But right, here we go. All right. Okay, so this is the archive of that news thing. Right, there's a link for that. I'm not zooming there. And she's not the only one. There was another one as well. So a woman in Germany, right? 9 attackers aged 16 to 20. This is what happens when you have too many migrants of the same kind in a small area in your country. They gang up together. They gang together, and not only migrants, like but majority, as we've seen in the last previous videos we put it out here and streams we've done. There's usually Middle Eastern or East Asian men who get together in gangs and do this. This time it was 9 of them, aged between 16 and 20, right? Were found guilty of raping a 15-year-old girl in Hamburg in 2020. This is just 4 years ago. Like I said, it takes a while before the court cases are all thing up. But the thing here is like how many other cases have already been taking place during this time? And by cases, I mean assaults, right? 15-year-old girl. So and here's what I think how this works. One arsehole at high school or two, like the girl gets said, nah, you bro, I got a boyfriend, or said, dude, not into you, just, at her school. So the boy, boy, because he doesn't know how to control his lust, because he comes from a society that doesn't talk about sex openly about that, apart from when you want to rape somebody. That's when you talk about it with your bros, when you're not getting your way, right? So this boy goes to, this 16-year-old, right? High schooler goes to his boys, right? His mates, and goes, hey, because I'm giving a hypothetical, but this is how I'm 100% sure worked in this case. Yeah, so this is chick I don't like. This is him, right? Just for those who are listening and not watching. So this is, my hypothetical on this. So he's like, yeah, so this bitch at school, right? So like, I like this chick and she just won't give it up. And like, I've been trying to get with her for weeks, but she just keeps turning me down. And, and so, man, I just can't control myself. Like, I just can't, man. Like, so I'm like jerking off and all that, but it's just not working for me. And I'm thinking about it all the time. Puberty, right? Like, whatever. Now, all I can think about is I can't even sleep at night, man. Like and the boy goes, "Oh, what are you gonna do about it?" Well, I don't know what to do about it. So I know what to do about it. Get it out of your system, right? About we grab her. Let's take her home. Let's take her somewhere dark. Let's make sure she can't get to hell. And we'll teach her, right? We'll teach her that she's not, she doesn't have body autonomy, that she is here to please us young man, I'm talking about 16 to 20-year-olds, 9 of them, right? Right. And so they do, right? Remember that we talked about that young girl over in the UK for 4 years, over 10 years, sorry, before she was actually able to get help. And the gangs that had trafficked her from town to town. And there was like 100 of them that were involved in her rape, whatever, So a woman in Germany has been given a harsher sentence than a convicted rapist after she was found guilty of defaming him. Right? Maya R., a 20-year-old from Hamburg, called him a disgraceful rapist pig and a disgusting freak. All right. Defamatory under German law. He was 9 attackers. Right? Doesn't say he didn't. He was one of them. Right? This is what, like, look. Right? Is this defamation as well? Shouldn't a telegram graph be like accused of defamation or go to court again? He was one of 9 attackers who gang raped a 15-year-old girl in Hamburg Park in 2020 in a case that shocked the city. Maya was sentenced to a weekend in jail for her verbal attacks. The rapist was given a suspended sentence. So he was guilty. The court said he's guilty because they gave him a sentence because of his young age. Because he was a high schooler. And I love what, and we talked about this previous stream, I love how Australia, a state in Australia said, if you do the crime, you do the time, no matter what your age. Because a lot of kids are going on breaking into cars and going on rides, stealing, breaking into homes in groups of 3 or 4, right? Crashing those cars. And so they were like, the states basically said, yo, we need harsher penalties for these fucking morons, right? So can we, let's put, let's put up, vote for a politician who will do that. And so this guy said, oh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be harsher. And so, yeah, boom, he got in. And now he's doing it. He said, that's what the people wanted. That's what I'm going to give them. Harsher sentences for minors who do adult crimes. So now you have a rapist out there, right? Remember, he's a rapist, but she, because she caught him one, she had to go to jail for a weekend. He didn't even go to jail for a weekend for being a rapist because he was a teenager, right? This is Hamburg Park, right? Repeatedly raped. Maya expressed her disgust in a direct message to one of the gang rapists via WhatsApp. After his name and number were leaked on Snapchat, she told the court she sent a message to him without thinking twice. Yeah, good on you. You piece of shit. You're disgusting. You're allowed to come to our country. You're maybe born here, and this is how you treat our people. 9 of you get together and rape one of our young girls in the open, in a park, hidden away somewhere, away from prying eyes, over and over again, right? Repeated. So she goes, aren't you ashamed when you look in the mirror? No, he's not, because as his people have told him, the woman don't mean shit. His religion has taught him that women don't mean shit. Remember, the jinn has possessed the woman. And maybe they've taught him that the way to get that jinn out of, the demon out of her, is by raping her over and over again. The numbers, these assaults are so many that it's not random anymore. This is what I'm trying to, with why I'm talking about this, because it's not random anymore. These are not random things. It's happening all across the world from one group of people, the migrants, who are in areas, a lot of them in those areas. Or like what I mean is, like, when there's a lot of them in the area, then these things happen. which is really common thing. Like if you have the same group of people in the same area, they get together, and so the crime is committed more by those groups of people because there's more of them. Right? When I was a kid, like when I was about 16, going on 17, I was skateboarding in the middle of, like probably 11 o'clock at night or something with my friends, and we're like workmates and my friends' friends, and so we just at a gas station in Auckland, right? Penmure. It's a little town. It's growing pretty fast, but anyway, the mobile station there, and we just went in and got a drink and chocolate because we've been skateboarding around, and we're at this point we're like maybe about 2-3 miles from my friend's house, and then same amount from my house, right? And so we're just there, and this guy comes up, right? A Maori guy comes up, or Islander. He comes up to me because we're just in the court at night, and the lights are all on, and people, getting petrol in their cars. That's what they stop for snacks and petrol. Pretty big area, you've seen like gas stations. And I'm just there, and this guy comes up and goes, "Oh, you got a job?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I got a job." "You want to do a job?" It's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I already got a job, man. I work at a factory." Remember, I'm like 17 years old here. So, and I'm not from the city. I've only moved here about a year ago, and like I'm from the rural area, so I don't understand these freaking terms for stealing, robbery, right? Jobs, robbery, breaking into places, right? So this was talking about to me, and I go, "Yeah, I got a job, man. I work 9 to 5." That's being a freaking in a factory packing biscuits and stuff and making them. And then so I go, "Oh yeah, never mind." And I just we went away. So and my friend comes up, and he's from there. He's lived his whole life in the city and in the area. And he goes, "What do I do want?" I was like, "Oh, dude, he was asking me about a job, bro." It's like, "What do you mean job?" So yeah, I told him. I said, I already have a job." Because no, that's not what he meant, bro. What he meant was, "Are you interested in robbing a place?" Right? Have right? This is an adult telling a teenager, "Hey, are you interested in doing, because basically the whole thing was, remember we were talking about afterwards, and this is like, in the 90s, right? Like late 80s, 90s. So it's like 30 years ago, over 35 years ago, I guess. And I'm like shocked because I'm like, what? People like have these guys go out there. He goes, "Yeah, well, what they do is they get a whole bunch of guys together, and then they go rob the place, and then they take that, then you get paid whatever, and then they take all that stuff and they sell on the black market." So this is a serious thing. So, yeah, this happens all the time, kind of thing. And he goes, "Yeah, well, a lot of times it happens from our town, where the guys, young ones, teenagers, because they don't get jail time, right? They just get a smack on their hands if they get caught. They go across the other city in the richer suburbs, right? Say about, I don't know, maybe about 30-hour drive. And then they'll go in and rob someone, the whole house, whatever they need to get. And then they'll, they get driven back, and that's it. They'll get the cash and boom. But so same in the situation. You got a whole lot of 16 to 20-year-olds. So that you got 20-year-olds, making sure whatever, so they can carry out raping people in these numbers. Girls. Remember, they're possessed by mystical hocus pocus beings called jinns and demons. So yeah, did I put that in the chat? I did. So you guys can check that out in the chat. Now, this is the one I was talking about, like in happening in Australia right now. 5 attempts, 5th attempt on teenagers being kidnapped. Right. And this is from this is from a year ago. So, damn it, where's the latest one? Darn it. Is the latest one? Why did I pick the wrong one? Because I was telling you that this was happening, been abducted. So it's been happening over for all around a year now. Now, where's the kids one? Where's the link? Darn it. Oh, well, there's no point playing that one because it's too ago. Okay, let's move on to something else then, because the one I had was just from a couple of days ago. But let's go. Oh, I some good news, because you guys, we cover China, right? So there's some good news came out about China but Vietnam, not and how they're treating online shopping. Where are you? Here we go. Just quickly, good news, and then we'll move on to the next one. And to the more, I was trying to break it up with something.
Once globally popular, China's e-commerce platforms Temu and Shein now face major challenges. Only has President Joe Biden issued a decree to block nearly $1 billion worth of tax-free Chinese goods from entering the U.S., but the European Union has also begun investigating the legitimacy.
By the way, this was all started by by Trump. Biden's just taking it on because it's the popular thing, right, to do, because he's realized that Trump was right all along, and so now they got to change it. So Temu, we've been talking about Temu, right? We've been talking about how cheap, fake crap that sometimes you don't even get what you ordered, and people have been getting nothing, rocks, rotten stuff, right? Clothing that has fleas and cockroaches in them, and their nappies and stuff like that, right? So really disgusting shit because of online shopping. So let me go back here.
Once globally popular, China's e-commerce platforms Temu and Shein now face major challenges. Not only has President Joe Biden issued a decree to block nearly $1 billion of tax-free Chinese goods from entering the U.S., but the European Union has also begun investigating the legitimacy of Chinese e-commerce. Even small Asian countries are now pushing back, attempting to prevent the spread of China's e-commerce dominance. In early December, Vietnam's Ministry and Trade announced it would suspend Temu's operations, which only launched in October. And Shein, which had been active in Vietnam for over 2 years, is facing the same fate. As of now, the Vietnamese language option has been removed from the Temu and Shein websites in the country. Countries around the world are increasingly concerned that China's e-commerce platforms will turn their markets into ground for cheap products. This has prompted investigations and the creation of new laws to protect local businesses, adding to the restrictions Temu and Shein already face in the US, UK, and other countries. The Vietnamese government has set a deadline.
What this means is that there'll be more $2 shops and dollar shops with Chinese fake imports, right? And not only just fake imports, but also low quality imports. Being sold locally to undermine local businesses who have higher, quality products, because people, on a lower socioeconomic, levels can only afford, dollar shops items and so on, and so that's how this thing grew, and so now that's going to go away. Now you're going to have a lot more infestation of dollar shops because of it, and you'll see it. I'm telling you, this is how, if you stop one route to get these things across, then another route will basically take on. And I reckon this is what's going to happen. It's more dollar shops and cheap shit will be coming across into your cities, into your states, into your towns going forward, because they can't sell it online.
For Temu and Shein to complete the registration with local authorities by the end of November, warning that failure to do so would result in domain name blocking and suspension of their apps. Both companies claim they have submitted their applications and they're under review by authorities. Temu, owned by Pinduoduo, gained global attention with its low prices, attracting consumers worldwide since its official US launch in September 2022. The platform expanded rapidly, entering several European countries, and in July 2023, launched in Japan. By the following month, it had entered South Korea, and later expanded into Southeast Asia, reaching Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and Brunei. However, in 2024, Temu and Shein have faced increased scrutiny and bans from Europe and the US to Asia. Since its launch in Vietnam in October, Temu's massive discounts of up to 90% and free shipping have drawn attention from local consumers. This raised concerns for the Vietnamese government about the impact on domestic products. The government decided to regulate e-commerce platforms to prevent local markets from being disrupted by these Chinese giants. At the end of November, the Vietnamese National Assembly passed a law requiring foreign e-commerce operators to pay value-added tax and calling for the elimination of tax-free policies on low-cost imports. Since 2010, foreign e-commerce platforms have benefited from tax exemptions on goods valued under 1 million Vietnamese dong, about $40 US. The Vietnamese Ministry of Finance has already begun removing these tax breaks, which could undermine the price advantage of cross-border products. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Trade has expressed concerns about the possibility of counterfeit goods being sold on Chinese e-commerce platforms. A member of the Vietnamese National Assembly's Defense and Security Committee noted that while Temu has helped diversify the e-commerce market in Vietnam, monitoring these foreign platforms for compliance with local laws, monitoring these foreign platforms for quality and authenticity is difficult. He argued in addition to Temu's low-cost products, it is essential to ensure clear product quality standards and traceable sources to prevent the sale of counterfeit and substandard goods. He also pointed out that many countries strongly oppose Temu's business model, as Chinese e-commerce platforms, with their size and resource advantages, could potentially monopolize the trade war between the US and China.
All right, so there you have it. Excellent news. I'm happy about that. I hope that more countries will take that on, especially in the West. So now we move on to our main topic of the day. So let's go.
So I know you don't want to talk maybe specifically about this case, but it is kind of a new case, a new charge for you. Can you just talk a little bit about that and maybe how it kind of all came about for you?
Sure. So we received some cyber tips, they're called, which kind of started the investigation. And we realized pretty early on into it that we were dealing with what's called virtual child pornography. So it's child pornography that can be considered lifelike or photorealistic. So it's not an actual physical person that's on the other, it's being depicted in the images, but it's a computer-generated photorealistic image. We actually at the sheriff's office have never charged that statute before because it is so new. It hasn't been available to law enforcement to charge until March of 2024. So this was really our first kind of going down that road of, okay, we're dealing with virtual child pornography, and it does now fit under this statute of possession of virtual child pornography.
I mean, what if people would say, it's not quote unquote real and there aren't actual victims? Why is that a crime, I guess?
Sure. So if we think of it, we use AI now in so many different aspects of our daily life. Well, law enforcement, we're sometimes always catching up to what the criminals are doing to try and get around the statutes. So in this case, there wasn't we haven't found actual child pornography, but that virtual child pornography, through the investigation, it was pretty clear to us that this suspect knew that this virtual child pornography was maybe not as bad as the real stuff. So he was essentially trying to get around that aspect of, well, it's not real. So thankfully for that statute, we were able to charge under it.
So who is the victim in this case?
So sometimes they are called victimless crimes, but when we do talk about real child pornography, we have gotten victim impact statements from those children, and the internet knows no bounds. So it can be in real child pornography, it can be children in other countries, other states, to the best of your imagination of where the internet can go. In these cases, I wouldn't really consider them victimless. I'd say if anything, society would be considered the victim, because this is a person, just based on our investigation, that they weren't really just looking at the virtual child pornography in a bubble, so to say, let's put it that way. So there was, a tendency that these could have gone to a hands-on type of an offense, because we will see that sometimes in these cases, to where that gratification just from the online or AI image isn't enough for that person, and they unfortunately.
So going back to that, because my brain just went, remember how that guy was saying that the girls are possessed by jinns, and therefore, it's not the guy's fault when they get full of lust, right? Or get attracted to them, right? Or they attack them and so on. So it feels like this is basically just kind of similar to that. Like, when you the thing is, like, why the hell are you actually having images of children? And like when you say child, we mean children, not teenagers, children, like under 12, right? 12 and under, that look like real children, right? I play what's called visual novel games, adult, CGI, characters. So the thing is that, like, you got to be in a sick kind of state in your brain to actually have children, right? That sort of AI generated images of, naked children on your. I just can't, right? But like, the thing is that then we'll see next couple of videos how this is all getting played out in the real world, right? How it's making people think, well, it's not real, it's CGI. Then, well, why is, what's the big deal? But he was saying, like, these guys don't just stop at that. Imagine if that's in your friggin' head, like a mind virus, whatever, right? You're not going to view other people, kids out there in the world, as innocent. You're going to see them as, in the same light. Now, the thing is, that they're like, your brain's just going to flash back because it's pattern recognition, right? And so, it's crazy that, like, we've gotten to where this is going. And this is the whole thing, like robots and stuff, right? Where we get to a point where we'll be like, we're just going to do to them what we can't get away doing to humans, right? And so it's basically acting out. And this is the same thing here, right? It's like, oh, we can't. But then, of course, it'll feed into it's like addiction, right? When do you go past that point to, oh, well, doesn't matter, does it? If I do it to a real person now, a real child now.
Unfortunately, progress down the worst path sometimes.
I know they said in court that he was like communicating with.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, so
that was important in this case.
Yep.
So we wanted to make sure that we took the appropriate law enforcement action before he.
So that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't, like, when you are having that shit there, it's not going to stop at that shit there on your computer. That sort of stuff, it's going to play out in in reality, right? Like I said, it's addiction, right? And it's just, you got to have more and more because, because you got no control, right? That's what it's about. Oh, I can't control myself, right?
Hands-on offender.
And so this is kind of the first case of its kind that you've had here in county since this law. I mean, can you talk about the law and I guess how beneficial it is to the work that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the law was just passed back in March. We had a deputy at ICAC training that was put on by Wisconsin DOJ just a month ago. And as this case was developing, I told him, I said, hey, try and talk to people from around the state or attorneys and figure out if anybody has, any type of opinion or anything to offer us for where our investigation can go. and even talking to others from around the state, it's been so new that they're kind of in uncharted waters, so to say. So what we did in this investigation is we tried to pick images and videos that were the most photorealistic, to where you would look at them and your general user would be like, that looks real. And we'd have to then put our eyes on them and focus a little more detail and be like, okay, that is computer generated, but it wasn't very readily apparent until we looked closer at them.
How do you tell the difference, I guess?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. One thing that we do is you have to unfortunately zoom in on it. A lot of times we'll look at.
Here's the thing about this, right? Like, imagine having to have the job to do that. All these guys go through therapy to deal with it, because there's no other way you can deal with having to look at it, just so that you can, for research, to bring someone to justice, right? It's just like the case we just saw before with the gang raping raping a 15-year-old girl, right, from 16-year-old to 20-year-olds, gang raping a 9-year-old girl's 15-year-old girl repeatedly in Germany, right? And that's not the only time it's happened, right? But the fact that those lawyers, those medical staff had to look at those images, because they had to bring a case against them. And I think this is what a lot of people don't understand when it comes to law and order and police, right? They don't understand that these guys who work on our behalf, who are paid by us to take care of us, to bring criminals to justice, to protect us from crime, and the shit they have to deal with on any given day, because that's their duty and service to us. And then you have leftists, and I know that, and like in everything, there's always going to be a bad apple, right? So you got to weed them out. But leftists are always like, all cops are bastards and all this shit, right? Yet they never put their hands up for those jobs themselves. All they do is complain all day long, but they will never put their hands up. I've had friends of mine, who've actually, got to work for the police, and they're like, dude, the stuff I saw, I just can't. All right, I just can't. The stuff I have to do, show up, knock on the door at domestics and child abuse cases, it's just horrible. And we can't see that. The only time we see it is sometimes because everything gets, and I don't want to see it. The only time I see horrible things is in a fictionalized setting, like a horror movie, right? Or if I'm writing about it for a comic book, right? Or for getting my artists to work on it, right? And even then, I'm like, how much do I really want to show this? And how much I don't want to show this. But the other thing is that those books are like a mature reader or R18. And I'll make sure that people who are reading and looking at them and coming to buy them are mature, right? They're the brains, they're adults, that they're like, that's targeted at that audience, because they can understand this is fiction. Because otherwise, escapism is amazing, but when you act on that escapism, like this dude was doing, right? He was just now on his way to targeting children. It wasn't enough that he was getting these CGI images, right? Photorealistic CGI images of children, right? And I'm not even going to say it, but like when they put up this word up here, right? It's enough, right?
The eyes, and you can tell kind of by the eyes, or AI also isn't great at hands for some reason, from what we've seen. So yeah, sometimes you do
but it's getting better.
In and look at it, and unfortunately spend more time than you'd want analyzing that image to determine that.
And you're confident in this case that no child was being abused, that they were all AI images?
At this point, yes, we're confident to say that, yes. So the investigation is still continuing, and we're going through the digital data to see if we find anything else. But at this point, we're confident to say so far it's all AI generated.
Okay. And I mean, obviously, this is one of the bad sides of AI. But talk about how you use it in your investigations and how I guess it has maybe helped you guys.
Sure. So we run a few different computer softwares that help our digital forensic detective essentially comb through tens of thousands of images that we get as part of our investigation. In some of those softwares, we have AI embedded tools that can actually go through tens of thousands of images and videos, and it'll direct us to, okay, hey, AI found this group over here that we really need you guys to put your eyes on and take a closer look at. So you're talking some of these cell phones now, we can do forensic examinations on them and we'll get 50,000 media items of images and photos. Well, if we use our AI tools, we can cut that down to maybe a couple hundred. Then that we have to, okay, focus really hard on these to determine if these are child pornography or legal pornography.
So I mean, really kind of time saver.
It is, yeah. It's a huge, huge time saver for us in investigations.
What kind of message does it send that you guys that this case has been charged out now?
Well, I mean, sometimes people think that they can hide behind a keyboard or a computer screen. And like I touched on before, the internet knows no bounds. Law enforcement has come a long way, even local law enforcement, in being good at investigating internet-based crimes. We also rely heavily on our partners at Wisconsin DOJ to help us in these investigations. So yeah, we take them very seriously, even if it's AI generated. Or of course, if it's a real child, we believe is on the other end of that photo. But yeah, we take them very seriously, so you can't hide behind a keyboard.
And this new law helps. Do you know the background of the law and how it sort of came about at all? Or is that
not really particularly. Another part of the law that was passed was it made it illegal to possess a child sex doll. That was also important in this investigation because we found that he was attempting to purchase a child sex doll on the internet. So yeah, those were the two facets that were important for law enforcement, was that.
So the thing here is like I said, it's never going to satisfy you, right? Like people go like about condoms, it doesn't feel real. And like this dude, he was looking into getting that. He wasn't just happy with the images. He wanted an actual toy child that he could carry out his depravity on. Right? And then what's the next stage? Well, if he's not satisfied with that, well, real children. Right?
Of virtual child pornography statute, and then the possession of a child sex doll statute. Sometimes these people, they think they can hide in their bedrooms or just behind a keyboard and they won't get found. Well, we have investigative ways to find them and hold them accountable for looking at this stuff online. So yeah.
All right. So the next one is, I just asked ChatGPT, right? That's a tool I'm going to use from now on with this. Whenever I come up with a thought, it's like, okay, well, let's ask ChatGPT to what's going on with what, right? So I asked ChatGPT, can I make this go away? Is it that one? Yeah. All right, here we go. How many AI police child abuse cases have there been in the last 5 years? Gives me three sites. Over the past 5 years, there have been several cases involving AI-generated child abuse material, CAM. They actually have an acronym for it, right? CAM. Okay, marking a concerning trend in the misuse of AI technologies. Some notable cases include Hugh Nelson. Sorry, I pressed something weird when I was downloading a digital font, and now I get this font, the digital font, show up all the time, computerized on my Facebook and stuff, and now ChatGPT. So apologies for that. I don't know how to turn it off. If you guys know how to turn it off, please tell me that in chat, man. I haven't even thought about looking at how to turning it off, right? But I'm sure somebody can give me instantly or knows how to do that. So, okay, 2024, this effing year, right? Hugh Nelson, UK, 2024. Nelson was sentenced to 18 years in prison for creating and distributing AI-generated child abuse images, some linked to real children. Remember, I was saying it doesn't stop with fake kids, with CGI. It gets to the next level. Addiction's crazy like that. And I'm not saying it to excuse it. I'm just saying it's like not controlling yourself, right? He used software to manipulate photos. Wait, so he used let me just let it go. He used software to manipulate photos and sold these images online, making thousands of dollars. Case number 2, right? Tasmanian case. So this is Aussie, right? Australia, 2023, last year. A man was sentenced to 2 years in prison for possessing and accessing AI-generated cam, which we just said was child abuse material. Right? This was the first case in Tasmania where AI-generated material has identified and prosecuted. And of course, there'll be more. Right? Now it's that president. Okay. Now we know how to deal with this. Now this is how we're going to deal with this. If we see this happen again, now this is what the law that will judge him by. This is what sentences and so on. Right? Great. I hope we've got this in New Zealand. Maybe got to look at that if we've got that law in place in New Zealand as well. Authorities globally are increasingly identifying prosecuting such offenses. AI-generated content, even if not depicting real victims, is considered equally illegal under many jurisdictions, as it perpetuates exploiting and enables predatory behaviors. These cases represent just a fraction of the growing issue. Organizations like the Australian Centre for Counter Child Exploitation and others worldwide are working to combat the spread of such material. If you'd like more information, okay. So let me see. So has there been a AI child abuse case in New Zealand? Supposed to get close to home, right? Because we got to get there, follow our cousins across, across Australia. Yes. First thing, yes. Right? Searched 5 sites. Yes, New Zealand has faced cases involving AI-generated child abuse materials. Authorities have reported a significant increase in the use of AI to create such exploitative material content, which is complicating efforts to combat online child abuse, which is complicating efforts to combat online child sexual abuse. In 2023, New Zealand's Department of Internal Affairs highlighted the seizure of a large volume of objectionable online material, including AI-generated images, during investigations. These cases demonstrate low advancements in AI. It says how there. These cases demonstrate how advancements in AI are being misused to create realistic, harmful content, leading to a rise in online exploitation cases. Efforts to combat this issue are ongoing, with international collaboration and new technology tools being employed to address the challenge of identifying and removing such material effectively. And brain's not really working with trying to read this. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is TEDTalk. That awesome thing that helped me learn to, that helped me get over depression, right? And learn about my neurodivergent brain, right? Because what happened was, like, you know, with all the things, injuries and head injuries and abuse and all that stuff with my, you know, with my past, I would go into cycles of like depression very quickly. And so my sister said, you know, you got to find out, you know, what makes you happy, you know, figure out what's, you know, how to do that. And what I then did was to, you know, started, well, what's going with my freaking head, man? I need to figure out why I am behaving this way. Why does it always go to this, right? Why does it always go to depression? Why does it always feel like, you know, go into these sort of things? As soon as I think about, you know, at the moment I get down, why do my brain just straight away go to depression? Not like, oh, let's do something creative or get out of my own head, right? Like I mentioned earlier on, like when you look outward, it's easier to get out of your head, you know. So this is I'm now going to take us over to the TED Talk. This is, of course, from 6 years ago. And of course, this is when I was just coming into looking at TED Talk. And it's been like 2018, around mid 2018 is when I moved into a place just by myself, because all my life I'd been living with everybody else. My, you know, flatting, hostels, family, uncles, aunts, different, you know, family, extended families. And then over the last, I guess, maybe 14 years, just flatting and being around solo moms, solo dads, you know, because they're the ones who need, you know, extra money to pay for bills, so they'll lend out their, you know, room to lend it, borders, right? Rent it out to borders. So I found myself in the last 14 odd years basically living, you know, renting in a hostel, then going on to rent with my friend. And there was 4 of us there. Yeah, 4 of us. There was a 4-bedroom house. And then after that, you know, then moving up here in late 2011, and I've been here since 2011. It's like 13 years. Anyway, so what I mean is, like, I've been living with a lot of different people throughout my life, right? Since I left home at 16. So I kind of really, you know, really thought like TED Talk was really good for me, with my brain, right? However, this was also out there, and I noticed this, and I haven't done anything about it until looking at this AI topic, right? But the way life you know, the way media goes is that, like, there is always someone trying to excuse despicable behavior, and usually it's people on the left, especially when it comes to children and women. And by children, I mean males and females, right? I'm not excluding, you know, that males don't get abused either. So a lot of times they just don't talk about it because of the shame around males getting abused, right, as children or even adults. Like I remember one of my mentors telling me how his son started work in a city in Auckland, and his gay boss basically assaulted him. The guy's in his 20s and got assaulted by his, you know, older gay boss. Right? So, yeah. You're not going to hide the fact. The other thing was, like, in Sadiq Khan, there was an assault that happened in a gay bar in UK against males by the staff. So let's watch this. This is, like, you know, 2018, 6 years ago. And of course, it's only gotten worse in excusing this sort of behavior, right? Like the whole MAP, minor attracted persons, they use that acronym now to, you know, am I saying that right? Acronym? You know, to excuse evil behavior, right, by evil people. because they think of it like, oh, it's like they have a disease, so they can't really do anything about it. Well, let's chop it off then. The part, like, if your eye, like they say, right? If your eye, what is it? Acts against you, just blind yourself, right? If you need to look at that sort of stuff, like child pornography, then poke your eyes out. Now you won't need it. Or if then you won't be able to see it. That's what they used to do in the old days anyway, like punish it. Like if your hand, like, if your hand steals, chop it off. That's what the Muslims used to do, right? And Indians, right? What? You're stealing with this hand. Oh, that's the hand that stole it. Okay, let's chop it off. Now you walk around handicapped, right? Harmless. Sorry. Anyway, I thought I'd do a joke before we go to this, hardcore, fucking heavy shit we got to listen to from this moron. So this is from University of Wurzbach, right? This is not an isolated event, right? We'll see other stuff. So this is from Billy Ray, a gentleman called Billy Ray's. Thank you for sharing. So why did you give you a subscribe? I like to subscribe to the smaller channels because you know what? It helps their algorithm, helps them, get more people to see their content. By the way, if you are watching on Twitter, thank you. And also watching on Facebook, thank you. But if you could, afterwards, or, pop over to my YouTube channel and give me a subscription as well, right? Thank you. And look at it. It's a woman who's saying this. It's even more despicable to have a woman who actually tries to normalize pedophilia. Right? That kind of made me disgusted very quickly because we know that a lot of more females, statistically are abused than males. But that's the only reason we don't know there is that many males. It's because a lot of times the crime isn't reported. Look at how young this bitch is.
Let me tell you about Jonas.
Yeah.
Jonas.
Yeah. This is a 20-something-year-old preaching pedophilia is okay, who's probably never experienced it in his life, because normal people, like people who talk like this, who preach this shit, have never experienced it. It's like all those pro-Islam people and pro-Palestinian people, and have never lived in those places. So they can totally, it's all blah 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 about it because they've never lived under that. So, and I'm calling her a bitch because she is a bitch for this, right?
Is 19 years old. He studies law in Munich. In his spare time, he likes to play soccer.
Oh.
Jonas has a secret.
Oh, because this asshole is playing soccer and studies law. He's normal. He's just like, remember, you get all those people say, oh, it was such a quiet guy. They were such a loving family. We never thought this would happen. And then he kills his entire family. And then you find out that he's been hurting them, abusing his family forever. And then you find out like that he's been abusing his children. And then you find he's a serial killer. Like that kind of normal. Oh, okay. Okay, let's put on some friggin', what is it called? Subtitles.
Which he thinks he cannot share with anyone, not even with his best friend or with his parents. He's just too afraid.
Yeah, because they'll fucking lock him up.
Rejection, and repulsion. Jonas knows.
So he knows it's wrong, right? Because he can't tell his own friend what he's like. Like me, like my friends know what I'm like. Right? They'll know, depending on who they are, they know what I'm like. Right? They've been around me enough to know what I'm actually like. Right? So what my interests are, they'll know. Because the reason I tell them that, because then if somebody says something that isn't what they know about me, then they'll be like, go, that's not him, because he's told us everything we need to know about him. That's why I do that. That's why I would tell people this, my closest friends, what I'm really like. They're in my inner circle. So because if someday somebody tries to say, well, this is what Aru, like, nah, bro. Aru told me exactly what his kinks are like, tells you exactly what he believes, tells you exactly what he writes, what he draws. He's very open, right? And you can see all, like, because I'm very verbal, right? Talk a lot of shit. You can trace back where I've changed and what I've decided when I've done something and I've gone, oh shit, that, yeah, and then I go, well, this is what I used to believe and this is what I don't believe anymore. And because your inner circle needs to know who you are, because they're like they're like your protection against the world when the world accuses you of shit, right? That isn't real. And this is why I think that this dude here knows in his head that he knows that people will be repulsed. His family, his friend, right? And here's the thing, like, if I think, a lot of times, people like to share a lot of shit about their kinks and stuff online. And I think that's important that, like, you censor yourself, right? You don't want to tell everybody what to do because they don't need to know everything about you. The only people that need to know everything about you are your closest friends and family members. See, there's things you shouldn't tell your family, right? And I don't mean like in a secret thing. It's just, they just don't need to know. But if your best buddy needs to know what that is like, right? Because birds of a feather, right? Like, because you're being open about yourself. So there's no sudden thing. So they don't get caught in some shit because somebody suddenly accused you, or I get caught into some shit if he gets accused of something and I go, that's not him. I know everything about his life because we talk about it fucking all the time. And this is why I think it's like disgusting, because this guy knows. They all know, right? Every abuser, pedophile know that it's wrong, but they do it anyway because they think they can get away with it, because they have people like this bitch who will speak for them and promote their ways like it's a normal thing. It's like watching somebody smash somebody's head in and saying it's okay. He's just full of anger. It's not his fault.
That he has to suppress his sexual drive for his entire life. And he also knows that there will never be a loving and fulfilling partnership that he can enter.
Who the fuck wants to enter into a partnership with a pedophile? Into marriage or into a relationship? People like her who enable that shit. We've had like pedophiles using females, right, to entrap girls, because women basically are soften the blow, because ladies and young boys or young girls, I should say, not ladies, young girls and young boys will trust a female before a stranger, then they'll trust a male stranger. That's why a couple of weeks ago I said, like, if anyone talks to you that any way that you're uncomfortable, male or female, you tell your mom and dad, right? The thing is, because they'll use females to make it easier to target younger people, right? Because you think, oh, why would it's fine, he's with a girl, like she's with him, right? So I'm going to play this through, and because I'm not stop and start, but I'll just take a little break while this is playing.
Because Jonas is a pedophile. He's only attracted to female children between the ages of 6 and 12 years. But since he's aware of the consequences for the children, he has never given in to his sexual drive. What is pedophilia? And what is it not? In the ICD-10, the International Classification System for Illnesses, pedophilia is coded as the sexual preference for pre-adolescent children. It is listed under the sexual disorders. Whether the persistent occurrence of sexual thoughts and feelings for pre-adolescent children have been acted upon or not is not relevant to the diagnosis. Like every other sexual orientation, pedophilia can have different characteristics. For example, it can be heterosexual, it can be homosexual, bisexual. Some pedophiles are exclusively attracted to children. Others are not exclusively attracted to children, but they're also sexually interested in adults. But their main sexual interest lies within children. Only if this main sexual interest is given, we talk about pedophilia. The vast majority of all pedophiles are men, about 99%. Within the male population, 1 to 2% are considered to be pedophiles. This translates to about 60 million people worldwide. This is as much as the population of Italy or of South Africa. Therefore, pedophilia is not an irrelevant phenomenon we can't simply ignore. Chances every one of you knows at least one pedophile are higher than that you don't know anyone. We haven't found out yet why pedophilia occurs. There are biological, social, and psychological factors to it. It occurs unrelated to social economical status and unrelated to educational level. So generally speaking, anyone could be born a pedophile. It is crucial to understand the difference between pedophilia and child sexual abuse, which is illegal and must always be. Pedophilia is only the sexual preference for pre-adolescent children. The difference between child sexual abuse and pedophilia becomes very obvious when we look at scientific studies. Think about it for yourself. What do you think? What percentage of child molesters are pedophiles? Have a guess. Is it 20%, 40, 60, maybe even 80%? In fact, scientific studies indicate that only 20 to 30% of all child molesters are pedophiles. The vast majority of perpetrators are not pedophiles, but they're sexually interested in adults. Children can easily become victims of child sexual abuse because of their loyalty and because of ease of access. For example, a stepfather might abuse a stepdaughter because he feels anger or jealousy towards her mother. Not every pedophile abuses children, and not everyone who abuses children is a pedophile. Differentiating between these two groups is essential. Let me be very clear here. Abusing children is wrong without any doubt. But a pedophile who doesn't abuse children has done nothing wrong. I want to quickly summarize where we are at the moment. According to current research, pedophilia is an unchangeable sexual orientation, just like, for example, heterosexuality. No one chooses to be a pedophile. No one can cease being one. The difference between pedophilia and other sexual orientations is that living out this sexual orientation will end in a disaster. So let's think about Jonas again. How can we help him not to cause such a disaster? How can we help him not to live out his sexual urges? How can we prevent child sexual abuse? In fact, scientific studies indicate that one of the strongest predictors for child sexual abuse committed by pedophiles is social isolation. People who can't tell anyone that they're pedophiles logically won't get any help. For example, they can't tell their friends that they can't go to the beach because children in swimsuits might be there as well.
I don't like if that doesn't tell you that this person needs a wood chipper, I don't know who does. And by the way, that was the title of my folder. It was like, what was it like? It's called like pedo wood chippers. All right. So let me flip over to chatbot to find out what is, what is it? I'm always going to spell pedophilia wrong. I always get, it's just something my brain can't. Is it like E before the I? Oh, yeah. Or A before the E? No, it's always AE. All right. So what is that? Tell me, chat bot, because I need a break from this clown for a couple seconds because I was listening to it. I was like, going, what? Or watching it. I'm going, what? Right. A pedophile is, or pedo in American, because the Americans always change the English language to, like a Z instead of an S, like socialize, like C instead of Z, whatever. Anyway, is a person who has a sexual attraction to children. And she was saying, she had this, and my brain was going, why is she saying that not all pedophiles are attracted to children when the effing name means that they are attracted to children? Because she goes, oh no, they're attracted to older people. It's like, no, then we call that something else, like grape, or someone who's a lustful person, all right, who is just a normal human being who's lusting after other normal adults. Pedophile basically means a person who's attracted sexually to children. That's what it means. That's right. And then this is what leftists do, right? They, like I said earlier, they try to change the meaning of words, right? Like from terrorists to rebels. When the whole world designated them as terrorists, they're rebels, like Hamas. Oh, they're rebel. They're freedom fighters when they terrorize their own people, right? Or minor attracted persons, but when they're actually pedophiles, who are basically, the exact meaning of the word is sexually attracted to children, right? This term specifically refers, purposefully refers to individuals that are persistent, right? Very important. Persistent and abnormal preference for prepubescent children. Remember I said it was under, not teenagers? Clarity, right? Exact meaning of words is fucking important. You can't change the meaning of words that we have held onto for generations, for centuries, right? We've basically categorized these people as sick, abnormal, right? Behavior towards children. They're not some, they can't control themselves. We need to get them help. Yeah. Neuter. Pills. Right? Like we do with dogs. Dogs who run around, you know, poking everything they can get their hands on because they're, you know, they're out there. Let's treat them like dogs. Neuter them. Right? Chemically neuter them. Because she said they can't control themselves. Okay, well, if you can't control yourself, we'll lock you up. You're not good for society. If you're a menace to society, right, then we'll take you out of society and we'll lock you up. That's how we behave in a social, you know, civilized world community, right? If you come and do the crime, you do the time, right? If you know what your thinking and your behavior is abnormal, then we put you in a place where you're around abnormal people, and in a mental health wing, where you can get the help you need, right? And then when you come out, we'll put a ankle monitor on you and make sure that you're not around young kids, that you're not around schools, that you're not waiting in the car, hiding behind bushes, you know, watching across the street, taking photos of kids. Because that shit is abnormal and disgusting. Right? So the attraction is considered a psychiatric disorder when it leads to distress, interpersonal difficulties, and acted upon. See, if I commit a crime, right, and this is it's because I'm this color, well, we can blame systemic racism. This is how they do shit, right? Yeah, it's because he's got like, you know, he's attracted to young children, prepubescents, because he's got a psychiatric disorder. Well, how about finding out how to change that disorder? How do we work on that? How do we find out why it's doing that? Was he abused himself? Was she abused themselves? Let's get to the fucking, you know, starting point. Or was it that he was, you know, it's just something he came up with one day and found it titillating, and so he got more into it, you know? So yeah, it's, you know, definitions, right? They always try to like, you know, because there's a lot of money in psychiatry, as you know, like, you know, therapy, like $200 an hour or whatever shit. So they'll come up with new things to fucking get more people to walk through their door, right? Because guess what? Let's talk about it. But then it never helps, because this lady ain't gonna help nobody. This clown that we just watched, right? She ain't gonna, you know, help nobody. You probably come out worse. I remember I came out worse when I went to psychiatry, and I've said it before, not all people, you know, psychiatrists are bad, therapists are bad. It's just the one I happen to have was fucking horrible human being and almost ruined my life.
They can't get support for situations they might not control entirely. And they can never be completely frank with someone else.
Yeah, because you get locked up.
We can make a difference for Jonas.
It's basically like, are you gonna like talk to a serial rapist or serial killer and go, or a criminal and go, that's cool, bro. That's cool, chick. That's way to go, dude. That's really cool, man. I'm happy for you. No, because we'll go, hey, John Boy here is we need to keep our kids away from him. Make sure when he's out and are about, make sure your kids like close to you, and make sure he doesn't have his mobile phone out. And maybe like when the kids, you know, when he comes to whatever, you know, event, make sure you go to the toilet with your children. Like, what, you know, when they go inside, you're outside the door watching, and, you know, keeping an eye that the kids are in there. When they're ready, then you can walk out of them. so that John Boy, Jonas, isn't left alone with them. Because you don't know.
We, as a society, can be there for him.
Yeah, we can be there for him and lock him up. Get him some therapy. Go to mental health, right? Put him in an institution. That's how we deal with it as a society, right? Go get your help, right? You can't be in society and have these things going on, Jonas. Because John Boy, you just can't hang out with us because you are fucking menace, right? So let's get you some help, and we don't have this bitch here, you know, standing up and talking about how you need to be left alone so you can carry on doing what you want to carry on. And it's not your fault that you think this way, John Boy. That you really deserve, you know, to do whatever you want. You should be left into in society. Maybe you know, when you get a passport, you can go to Philippines or Thailand, John Boy, because then you can carry out what you want to do over there, because then, you know, you're not doing it here. So we don't have to look at you doing it here or think about or talk about you doing it here, because you're doing it over there. Because that's how it works, right? That's why you see a lot of people, older, you know, people traveling to poor countries to do this. I've told you about how I was in Fiji, and I must have been about, because I look young, right? Must be when I was 20 or something. I think, yeah, maybe 18, 20, 91, something like that, right? 30 odd years ago. So yeah, around 20. When I was in Fiji, me and Dad, I think we had gone to the movie or something. And like, it's, you know, my dad's at that time, so he's about 25 years older than me, 30 years older than me. So, or 35 years older than me. No, 30 years older than me. So give or take, he's 50 at that point, right? Around going on to 50. So this dude walks, you know, as I'm, you know, we're trying to find a cab home, right? This is like at night, this area, you know, and in the daytime. So in the daytime, it's a market, it's Nandi markets, right? So there's all these things, and you know, there's the buses and cabs are there, and you can get a ride home, right? So this is around about, I think 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I think we must have gone to the movies. Otherwise, why the hell would we be out at night, right? Me and Dad, right? And so we're getting a ride home, I think, and you know, I mean, going to look for a ride home. So just walking towards to find us, you know, this thing is, we know local people and from our village that actually drive taxis. So we go and get them. Like I do with the same thing here, right? I only have about 3 or maybe 2 or 3 people that I actually hire on a weekly basis to drive me around, right? Because over time you get to know them, you become friendly, you know, you talk to each other, you know what their interests are, and so, you know, camaraderie, right? And so I'm looking for, you know, one of our village people who's driving that night. And so while I'm doing that, and I'm walking with Dad, I'm on the inside and Dad's on the outside of me towards the road, you know, just casual walking. This guy comes up to me and he goes, is he looking for another boy? I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, you know, we can provide him with a younger boy. So what the fuck are you on about? You know, and then my head clicks and I get the fuck away. All right. And Dad goes, what's going on? I said, don't ask Dad. You know, I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm like, don't ask Dad. Let's just go, man. Because my dad doesn't speak Hindi. Right. And so, you know, then we get home and I think about it, right? And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, well, I don't know if I can call the cops. Why don't I think about this? And like in the moment, I'm like, I was just wanting to get the fuck away from this fucking devil, evil person. Repulsed by the fact that he would think like that. And then there's a child somewhere. My brain didn't even, you know, comprehend that there's a child somewhere who is being put up for abuse. And
At the moment,
and that was 30 years ago, and I still feel guilty over not doing anything about that. Because at that time, in my my 20s, I wasn't really thinking. I was just thinking, so repulsed, I wanted to get the hell out of there.
we live in a world that already.
Let's go back a bit. This clown.
We can make a difference for Jonas.
Lock him up.
We, as a society, can be there for him.
Yeah, lock him up. Get him mental health
At the moment,
treatments.
we live in a world that already excludes pedophiles.
Yeah, we should.
Because of their preference alone.
Exactly.
Someone who's lonely and
what is there to argue about? That's what we should do. We should exclude despicable people from society and get them therapy and help, because that's all that's about. That is already available there for these people, right? Until they're okay to be back in society. And even then, ankle monitors, right? And making sure that they're away from children. Same thing with rapists. They don't go anywhere near where women are. Or they'll, they'll log in and say, hey, this is where I went today, and so were you close to children today? No. So how, what were you feeling? Whatever. Okay. Talk it up. Okay. And you find out, okay, he's doing okay. Let's keep an eye on him still, but he's a bit more, right? Let him walk around, further away than the 200 meters, whatever, right? And then you find, then the next day he comes in and goes, oh shit, okay, well, we'll take that privilege back now. And then you go, oh, there's a pattern of behavior here. It's like the more we let him be around children, the more he gets hyperactive and becomes very, nutty. So maybe we don't let him out in society. Maybe we just leave him in institution. And maybe, he can go to art class, music class, cooking class, and all this shit, because it's like, normal jail. But we won't, we'll just put him away from society so he's not harmful for society. Right? So it's not like George Floyd holding a gun to a pregnant woman. And then because he dies choking on his own fucking, on his drugs, they make him into a martyr because he's a black dude who died in the hands of cops. Forgetting the fact that he held a fucking gun to a black woman who was pregnant. A gun to her pregnant stomach. This is the moronic left that we understand now, that live in that we have to share the world with. But that's okay. We'll call you out, right? But just like with the morons or despicable human beings that you think have a disease, they don't. They need to, be, like criminals, be put away from society. In institutions that can get them help until we find out they're okay or not. And if they're not, we leave them there. If they're okay, then we bring them out. But we watch them because we want to protect the rest of society from the despicable human beings like pedophiles and rapists and gang rapists. But no, she doesn't want those people to be excluded because her young brain, who's never been abused, has never experienced that sort of shit happen to her, thinks that she knows better than generations of world history. This is where, like, there's something I read one time. It said, like, your learning has made you forget the real thing. Something like that, like reality. It's like you've had too much education to a point where the education has become a god to you, where you don't know what reality is like how people live in real world situations. That's why you see a lot of college students, especially America and UK, who have never lived outside, like who've gone from like kindergarten to junior high, or is it primary school here in New Zealand, to middle school, I think, and then high school, and then college, what we call it, University of New Zealand, right? And then they protest everything, which is okay, fine, because that's where, but fucking know what you're protesting about. We saw a video where like this lady was protesting, it's just my opinion, but you're saying this is as a fact. No, it's just my opinion. But why you're saying is a fact then? Right? Because she's giving her opinion. It's not fact. It's just like I'm giving you my opinion, but I'm backing it up what I'm saying with other shit. Like I showed you the ChatGPT, right? This is what we call pedophiles.
Excluded from society, has little to lose, and is at much higher risk to commit a crime, like, for example, child sexual abuse. We can make Jonas feel that he stays a valuable member of our society, although he's a pedophile.
I don't know what to say to that. I might as well just laugh at that shit.
Right now, most of us feel discomfort when we think about this scenario.
Well, we should.
And most of us feel discomfort when we think about pedophiles. But just like pedophiles, we are not responsible for our feelings. We do not choose them.
So just like that, those 9, 16 to 20-year-old boys and young men, I should say, not boys, like young men, like 20-year-olds, right? They're adults, right? After 18, you're an adult, especially in my world, in my society, right? In the West. I lost my train of thought. But, oh yeah, that's what it's like. So those guys felt that raping a girl was fine over and over again. So we should accept that because their feelings, that we should not be repulsed against them because they come from a certain group of people, ethnicity and race. Should we excuse it? Excuse their barbaric, despicable behavior done to a 15-year-old girl over and over again? Not just one, repeatedly. Gang of them. The left, especially these in the extreme, their brain, because due to over-education, has made them think that education itself is God. Because religion, I mean, like, you got to have some sort of belief in your life because, like, the religious says there's a God-shaped hole in your heart, right? But the far left, or leftists, they forget human nature, biology, genetics, DNA, because they leave that and they rely on feelings, and so feelings become a god. And I've been that way myself, where I said, like, I've actually said this to a person. I said, nobody's lived your life, so they don't know what you feel, right? So don't let them tell you how you feel, because leftist thinking is about feelings. And and every time somebody brings, when we start talking like law and order, pragmatically, right? And you go, well, this and this is what happened. This is what I was thinking about. And they will go about, well, you don't understand how they feel or how they were affected by it. It's like, I don't give a fuck how they're affected by it, but this is what happened. Because while that's happening, you're not worrying about the other person who's the victim. Right? You don't care about the victim. You're like, how does the abuser feel? Right? What about the abused? She's only thinking about the abuser here, the pedophile. right? She's not thinking about all the children and others he will grow to abuse over time.
But we are responsible for our actions, and we must make a decision.
Why do we?
It is an hour.
Why do we have to be responsible for our actions? What about this fuck? What about this despicable human being taking responsibility for his action? Right? What about that? Why is it on society to put up with shit like that? To listen to you talk about us having to feel sorry for a pedophile rather than putting him in the wood chipper or neutering him chemically or locking him up or her, right? Why is it on society to do that? Because it should be on law and order, because we've chosen to live by a certain rule of thumb, a rule of law. In a Western democratic society, we have chosen these are the laws that you have to live by and the rules to exist in living in our society. Right? Because a civil society does not allow pedophiles or criminals to continue abusing victims, innocent people. Why is it on us? Right? Why is it on us to take the responsibility? See, this clown here isn't thinking about all the victims that this person is going to victimize and do stuff to. No. She's just thinking about his feelings. How does he feel that when he's shunned by society, rightfully so, you know, when people point at him, go, don't go near him, kids. If he comes near you, run to mum and daddy or run to another adult. Right? Run to find a police officer. Run into a shop. Right? Get away from him. Why should we feel sorry for these sort of terrorists who terrorize society? All right? Terrorize children's lives for generations, ruining them for generations. Why should we feel sorry for monsters? Why is it our responsibility to feel sorry for them?
Our responsibility to reflect and to overcome our negative feelings about pedophiles and to
fuck pedophiles. Actually, not in that way, but like in a wood chipper. Put them in a wood chipper. You know, that big hole. Shove it in there. If they're guilty of a crime, what does our law say? That, right? There's no two ways about it.
treat them with the same respect we treat other people with.
Do the crime, do the
We
time.
should accept that pedophiles are people who have not chosen their sexuality and who, unlike most of us, will never be able to live it out freely if they want to lead an upright life.
I don't think I can handle any more of this bitch. Honestly. Seriously, like, I mean, she's trying to indoctrinate us into thinking that pedophilia is okay, that we should treat pedophiles as normal members of society, that there's nothing wrong with them, that they should be allowed to carry on. If they're no longer pedophiles, they shouldn't be called pedophiles, right? So if they've stopped being that, then fine. Then they can come join society with an ankle monitor, because we, got to make sure that they are, they're not tempted. Right? So it reminds me of I think it was like an aristocrat who was hiring, this is an old story, right? He was hiring carriage drivers. And I'll finish off with this. Who was hiring carriage drivers, one of my artists had to draw it because it's for a 200-year-old story. I just remembered Louise did a great job, actually. Looked really cool. Like one of those, You got your 4 big, huge wheels and the horse-drawn, carriage. Look really amazing. Did a great job. And so the thing was, he was hiring a new servant, right? A serviceman or whatever, driver. And so, they came up, and one by one, they said, okay, this is what I can do. So this one guy said, well, I can drive, about a meter as close to the edge of edge of the cliff, so we don't go over. So that's how good I am. I just don't, and the other one comes and goes, well, I can beat that. I can within an inch. I'm that good. I can drive with it. Our carriage, your carriage, sir, with your family in it. With all your goods and all that. About an inch, and we still won't. Another one comes in, look, even on a 2 wheels, sir, like the inside wheels, right? 2 wheels overhanging, I still can. And one guy said, sir, I won't even go near the damn cliffs. Right? I'm going to be as close to the side of the, of the wall, or the good side of the road, as far away from the cliff as possible, sir. I'm not going to put your family in that much danger. I'm not that much of a clown to be, to drive that close to the friggin' edge, because I value my life, but more important that I value your life. So if I'm going to come work for you, I'm going to stay as far away from that shit as possible. And what do you think the dude, the person who's hiring them said? You're hired. Why would I want to be placed in danger? I'm not wanting to live on the edge. I don't want to be fearful that, he's good enough to like go right over and not tip over. So why would we as society test ourselves with this despicable people, and not just find, arrest them, take them to court. If they haven't acted on it, let's get them help. Every week you show up for counseling, therapy, right? Proper, not this clown here, right? That we just watched. That lady, never send it to someone like that. She reminds me of the person that I was actually being counseled by when I was a child. Not a child, she was in my 20s, right? And because they do more harm than good. So because she'll be enabling, say, oh yeah, it's all right, we'll act upon it. It's as long as it makes you feel good. Because at the end of the day, if you're behaving in an abnormal way to society, that could cause damage to people's lives, especially to young children who haven't even had a chance to grow up, and you're taking that away from them, then you should get therapy first the moment we find out, right? Or if you yourself should be responsible to society, not the other way around. Because if you're having mental health, whatever, your cravings, right, that you can't control, go get help. It's freely provided, right? That sort of behavior is like help is freely provided for people of that kind, right? So you get counseling, and the counselor finds out, whatever therapist finds out, that, okay, this is, I think we need to really seriously keep an eye on this guy, and because, could be dangerous, dangerous society. Or, hey, look, I think you're in the early stages, you just kind of get tempted there. You're about a meter away from the edge. So let's just, come show up, and we'll look after you, try to help you through this. Maybe we can put you on some medication, help you to not have these cravings. Or let's say it's like the guy who's like 1 inch from the edge. You go, okay, all right, I think we need to, put an ankle monitor on you, and put a like 200 meters away from children type thing, from the public. You don't go to places like parks, where there's children. Don't go near schools. Don't go near churches. You don't go, to public places, where there's children around. And then there's a guy who's like 2 meters over the edge, or edge half and half, right? Like 2 wheels are sliding over there, you know, and 2 wheels on this side. And those are ones we go, well, okay, you know what? We tried the monitor, you know, we tried to therapy, but we think you're very dangerous at this point because you're taking risks with children's lives. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock you up in an institution, not in jail, an institution, because you're just playing around with it now. And we'll take you away from society and put you there in that box, in that cage, whatever, and we'll work with you there away, so that while we're working with you, you're not out here doing shit, right? To children. The other thing is, then there's the other ones, right? The ones who've actually over the cliff. Those ones we basically lock away and throw away the key. They can't be helped. There's no two ways about humanizing pedophiles, because the only ones who think that's what should be done are left brain clowns, leftist clowns. I shouldn't say left brain because, you know, but leftist clowns who like to change meaning of words, who like to play around with people's lives, who've spent years in education, sometimes maybe decades, and they haven't lived in the real world. That their education has made them corrupted in their thinking. That they've forgotten about pragmatism and real life things and real world outcomes for these people's behavior, because their head's been in the books rather than actually looking into the world, like the head in the clouds type thing, right? So that's it. 3.5 hours. Thank you for joining me. Didn't expect it to be like so long again, but you know, I'm gonna do these streams until I feel exhausted, whatever, and then off I go. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out with me on Facebook, on Twitter, and also here on YouTube. Please give me a like, subscribe. I really would love your subscription. Help me get out there. Also, have an awesome day, man. Like seriously, I really, really, really mean that. Have an awesome day. Have a great day. You know, wherever you are, whatever time period you're in, have an awesome day. Because, you know, why not? All right. Have an awesome life, awesome day. You know, get yourself and listen to some music, you know, do some drawings, you know, get out of your head. And, you know, we talk about some heavy stuff on this channel. So, you know, listen to some music, refresh the brain, you know, watch some cartoons or something, you know, something funny, watch comedy. There's a lot of comedy, stand-up comedy here on YouTube. Excuse me, you know, cartoons, old classics, right? I've been watching a lot of Jimmy Carr. Missed out on a lot of old Jimmy Carr. You know, he's fun, English gentleman, you know, great. And but yeah, like have fun in your life in the right way, right? So thank you for hanging out with me today. And I'm, you know, heavy stuff covered, but you know, there's so many great things happening in the world around you. Technology has made us so much closer. And that's why I love living in this time, man. It's like the best time to be alive. All right. Thank you so much. Ka kite anō, wherever you are. Be well, be safe, and have a great day. Like I said, see ya. Thank you, everyone who's joined me today.